Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Open Minds, where you can broaden your perspectives, expand your horizons, and open your eyes to a reality never thought possible. Just remember, once you open that door, there's no going back. I am your host, Robbie Diesel. This is the Open Minds Show, and tonight's episode is The Solution with my guest, Monty. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we got the title of the episode as a solution. As well as I know, the guests kind of know, this is a conspiracy kind of show, or we talk about stuff that's not mainstream and stuff like that. But I feel like most of that is revolving around like problems. Like, okay, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem. So your thing is, hey, here's all these problems. Let's find a solution.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Well, I think, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Rec, for putting this whole play together and, making the introduction. That's my brother. So, man, definitely beautiful play you put together with that. Cause, it's a honor to be on the show. And, I'm, even more excited about the fact, like you said, being with the conspiracy, which we'll get into that, of course. But the whole point being, because when I first figured all the stuff out about the conspiracy stuff was so many years ago that when you kind of live through all the events that occur that may have occurred, or conspiracy that didn't actually happen, or ones that are still building possibly for 40 years down the line, you end up realizing, well, okay, so I know about everything. Like nothing shocks you,
right.
It could be the worst thing in the world that's occurring, which they are, you know what I'm saying? But how do we get on with our daily lives and actually still make a difference is I think what I've been, I guess, working on by myself for the last few years, as far as trying to figure out solutions. And one of those reasonings behind that was kind of when I went out to Florida and met up with Jock Fresco, and that kind of opened my mind to solutions way more than ever before, and kind of gave me an ease about the whole conspiracy stuff, because if something's really bothering you that bad, you either give the information out or figure out some way to let people know about it. So that really opened my mind to solution-based type of thinking. And that's what I've been thinking about.
For people who may not know, let them know who Jock Fresco is.
Well, you guys could look him up, on Google. He's very well known, but he's basically a self-taught scientist, architectural engineer, and sociology, expert, and dabbled in psychology and did all kinds of stuff. I think the biggest, most profound thing for me about Jock was that he started thinking about the future in about 1920, which is really just ahead of his time. So a lot of the stuff you see today, either Jock already thought of, already drew, already had a model of it, did a lot of stuff way before they ever even came out. And so that really interested me and got me locked in. By the time I went and saw Jock, he was 97.
Wow.
So yeah, so he was more, in his own words, was more focused. And you could jump in and let me know if I'm misinterpreting, like, stuff, because you watched the Future by Design, so you could, if you remember something. But he was more in the later years of his life, was more done with the invention type of stuff about like making the perfect, pollutant free world and stuff like that. He still had them and thought of them years ago, but he was more on the level of trying to convince people that the change needed to occur. I guess what it was more mentally, rather than, in his own words, with physical inventions.
Right. And I think that's kind of probably where that seed got planted for you with the solution to it, which, by the way, I think is great, because even being, I mean, I guess you could say a veteran in this stuff as well too, or somewhat seasoned, I think it is very important when you go down that rabbit hole, you need to have a grasp on being able to come back out of it, because it's very easy to be consumed by it. And that just leaves you miserable, and that's not the goal here, is to leave a bunch of people miserable. It's just to bring knowledge to their attention, to say, hey, this stuff is going on. You may or may not know it. So now let's work on trying to better it.
Exactly. That's, I mean, I couldn't put it better myself. That's exactly like, the issue with that. And with I wouldn't say with the knowledge of so-called conspiracy theorists or stuff like that. I think it's more the beginning years of understanding about that, because it is disturbing, you know what I mean? And there is disturbing stuff going on. But at the end of the day, if you were to focus on all the disturbing stuff going on, you would just be focusing on that and not really coming up with a solution. And
exactly.
And when I say solution, I think me and you are on the same page, but just to make it clear, is like a solution in your own terms,
right?
Not the solution.
Yeah, you're not going to be the hero.
Yes, exactly. I think honestly, when in the younger years of that type of thinking, that's what you're thinking, like, oh man, if they come try to take my guns, I got so many, and I got this, and I got that, and I'm going to put a stop to it. And there's people that still think like that, I'm
going to round up all the homies.
Yeah, you're not going to do any of that. You know what I mean? It's going to be, and I don't even think those days are necessarily going to come anytime soon. I think, and from my experience, which I've been thinking about this stuff for many, many, many years, very deeply, like not just kind of just through one ear and out the other. I believe it's a very long process. And as you can see, when something happens, or a pandemic or something happens, you see how decisive, how split it is. The majority of the people, either someone doesn't agree with it, or someone thinks it's like this and that. That's been really trippy to me lately, like analyzing all this stuff, because I always thought, well, if someone were to get some sort of mass extinction plan going, how would it occur? And so seeing what's happening with this many people dying and all this stuff, it's like, it's almost kind of what led me not to worry about the vaccine, because I was like, the actual virus is the killer, not the vaccine.
Right.
So if you do believe in depopulation and all that, then that should be, that would be like the out is the vaccine, but the original was people like, oh, that ain't gonna get me sick, and then die from it. You know what I mean? Me personally, I know a lot of people that passed away, God rest their soul, that passed away from COVID. So, and really passed away from it, meaning that they didn't go in with a broken leg and then they just wrote COVID,
Right.
Yeah. So
I was talking to somebody the other day, and I brought that up too, is that it seems to, if you already have pre-existing conditions, it seems to attack that and or speed it up, which is why people were going left and right. I also did read a couple papers the other day that actually in some areas, vaccinated people are dying at 3 times the rate of people with just coronavirus. Now, I don't know if that's just a regional thing, or it's they took a certain vaccine from a different company that's not one or the other, Yeah,
there could be a lot of variables.
Right. So that's something, but back to the rabbit hole and going down in that, I think that's important too to touch on, is that like when me and you mentioned conspiracy theories, like, and for anybody out there listening, like, that's just the phrase that's been coined.
Exactly.
There's a lot of these things that were conspiracy theories 5, 10, 2 years ago that are like fact now.
Exactly. So, the geoengineering we were talking about. And
right.
I mean, I've literally argued with, I don't even know, hundreds of people about that. And they were like, oh, you're nuts. This is like, and at the time, what's weird is really, it wasn't like, oh my God, they're look at that. They're spraying us. Like, it's not like that. It's just, you're talking in a normal conversation, just talking about, you know? So I don't want to talk about the weather, man. I want to talk about something a little bit more deeply. So you talk about something like that, and people tend to be scared of that, or feel like you're shattering their world or something, or you're trying to shatter their world in a way that's negative. But in reality, when you go and study half this stuff, it's occurring and has occurred. And I don't want to say half, probably way more, 75%. But at the same time, what I realized was today, like I'm in my senior year at Humboldt State.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm about to be graduating with environmental science and management
Congratulations.
Degree. Thank you. And I was doing botany before that. I've been going to school forever, and just switching majors and doing this and that. What I learned is in all those years is you can't even say something without the proper data. If you say something, anyone that has gone to a class, they wouldn't even listen to you. Mm-hmm. If you were going to get an A on the paper, you'd get an F on the paper, because the teacher would say, you just were talking. You didn't tell me where you got this information. Not only did you not tell me where you got the information, but the information was from, it's like you're doing a paper on racism, and the information was from whitepower.org.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't work. And I noticed as I'm doing this research that, wow, a lot of this information is just covering all the real information. And to get to the real information, you really have to dig. And by digging, you do your own terms of research, as far as like, you can't do scientific material on like declassified government stuff or something, I mean?
Right.
Like you just read that and you make whatever you want to make of it, But for certain stuff, when someone's claiming numbers or this and that, it's very difficult. Like I can't even
dispute it.
No, I'm very confident in that. And I can't even right now bust out a number unless I had a computer next to me and say, hey, you know what? The CDC may have said this, but then also 45 different think tank groups analyze what they said. Or someone came up with a reasoning behind Corona. Well, if it's not a peer-reviewed article, it's zero.
It's opinion. It's opinion.
It's just an opinion. And even if it's a book, it's still an opinion. It has to be a peer-reviewed article. For those that don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, is, a peer-reviewed article has to go through a certain amount of experts that are not in any shape, form, or fashion.
They're unbiased.
They're completely unbiased. As a matter of fact, not only are they unbiased, if they read your bullshit paper and they agree with it, they've just given up their whole career.
Yeah.
So when you say something, it is just not even numbers even. It's more than numbers. It's convincing with numbers, the numbers matching with what you're saying, and winning the argument. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, it's very difficult to even say anything. And I catch myself all the time. I'm totally guilty of it. In no way, shape, form, or fashion am I making it sound like, oh yeah, everything I say, I put a source. That's
law, bro. That's law.
Yeah, I've been wrong millions of times. You know what I mean? So, but the thing is you just realizing that now. So what I do is when someone says something, is I just say, okay, unless they can show me the actual source, then I can't really take much for it. And then unless I want to jump in it myself, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So here's a couple things, is that debate, like logical, sensible, like, hey, me and you one-on-one debate without arguing, without raising our voices, with knowledge, used to be welcomed.
Yes.
Now an opposing opinion or an opposing side, whether it be, like you said, a approved piece of article or not, it's like, my mind's already made up. Fuck you. You can't tell me otherwise. You're wrong. I'm right. Which is so dangerous, because it creates a bunch of idiots, because science is constantly changing. So a group of scientists over here may have came up with a conclusion, a hypothesis, a theory, and all that. And that's great. And it might be sound for 5-10 years, maybe 5 or 10 days, until another credited group over here is like, well, wait a minute, we did this and we got different results.
Yes.
Who's to say who's wrong and who's right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, what you were talking about, as far as like, you can't even bring up something like you're saying in school unless you have proof of where it comes from. accredited proof. In certain aspects, yes, like you touched on, that's great. But in other aspects, I feel like that's dangerous too, because like, say you're the only person that witnesses something that happened. You're the only source. What are they going to say? That you're lying, you're wrong just because it's you, that you're the only one that saw it?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So in certain, like, think of it back in the day, how like they had to send a messenger from kingdom to kingdom, and like,
Yes.
so, and some of those messengers probably lied because they had their own agendas and shit like that. But still, it's like,
God knows. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
you can't dispute certain stuff just because you weren't there. You know what I mean?
No, you're totally right. And observation obviously is the biggest part of scientific method. And if you go outside and see 30 birds that just fell out of the tree, you obviously observed something without doing a lab experiment or
Right.
getting data or researching the data or researching the source. So yeah, that's highly unaccounted for, you know what I mean? Where people kind of forget about that. I love that. I think that's, if you really want to know something, then yeah, you would probably want to talk to eyewitness accounts and to get deeper or to figure out what kind of experiment you're going to try to figure out and what the hypothesis is and what you're trying to prove. You know what I mean? And
so a perfect example was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done.
Before I forget, you remember the pipeline incident in Cannonball, South Dakota, a few years
Oh
back?
yes,
That was
oh,
during the Obama administration, right?
yes.
Okay, so me and my wife were 6 hours away from that, 5 hours away from that, and our timeline's filled with people from California, and everybody in California has an opinion and they got a social media. So like, we're looking at this stuff and we're seeing the same news stuff too, and we're just like, this is just ridiculous. And news is like slamming these Indians, talking about, oh yeah, they want to protect the land and they want to do this and that, but they're trashing their own land. So me and my wife, she was pregnant with my first kid at the time, so it was 2016, right? 20
Wow.
No, it was 2016. We went to Cannonball, South Dakota, and we went out there for 2 days. Well, there was literally a river that divided the camps. One side was the actual tribal Indians. Another side was a bunch of, I guess you could say, liberal tree hugging hippies from all over the place that just congregated to come support the cause.
Support the
Now,
Indians.
yeah, this is my eye account. On that bridge, you could see both camps. The Indian camp was like roped off pathways and roadways, teepees, flags, all nice, organized, trash cans like around, no trash, nothing. Across the river, dude, it looked like under the bridges in Sacramento. It was tent city.
Oh my God.
It was tent city. And the news was filming that, saying this is what the Indians are doing. And it wasn't even the Indians. It wasn't even the Indians. And you could see it clear as day. Dude, these guys had like hippie guards guarding the tent city, and you had to give like passwords to go into their camp and shit. Like, dude, it was crazy, bro. Like, it was the most wildest thing I ever been a part of.
You had to give them goji berries at the door,
bro. Oh, dude, it was nuts. And so on the bridge where they're having the standoff with the police, all these churches come there and literally cut off the Indians with these trailers with speakers and are trying to do their sermons and donate money to our congregation. And this, dude, it was just
going back 200 years to when they first started doing
it. Was crazy. A complete mess, dude. And from then on, anybody that I talked to about it, I was like, you can't argue with me. I was there. I saw it. I don't care what you've been spoon fed. I don't need to show you data because I was there and witnessed it.
And that's one of the most really solid things you could really, use as a if there's evidence of it, you know what I mean? But for you could have easily, you could have just recorded it and be like, look, that's the Indians, so it would have been easily proven that it was a complete lie, you know what I mean? But that's it goes back to like history of news, and when it sounds funny, but really that really did occur with what happened in like Nightcrawler and where they were like focusing on the negative to get more views, and that it's entertainment at that
Yep.
point. It's really just entertainment, and it doesn't surprise me at all. And when you watch the news, we had a little project years ago where the teacher told us to watch oh my gosh, I can't believe what's the broadcasting, the PBC or the local
CBS or PBS.
No, PBS, was it PBS? The one, the it's like a charity, but you know, they had like really good.
The public broadcasting system.
Yep, exactly, that one. So they was like, watch that and then watch the regular news. You know, that one was like 5 minutes about the war, 5 minutes about the environment, the 30 minutes is what the 30 minutes was filled with. And then the news was filled with, I think it was 1.5 minutes spent on kids reading to dogs. And literally there's kids at a kindergarten that were reading to dogs, and that was they spent like 2 minutes on that. And so it showed minute by minute what they're talking about. And yeah, it's exactly, you know, it's pretty much negative, meaningless stuff, and then you have to go search for the real stuff. But that, I don't know, sometimes you kind of think like those people that don't know about this stuff are better off because they're just living their life. They're just living their life, and you know, but I guess it's just empathy too, you know what I mean? And so if you're an empathetic person, then you're gonna, obviously, if something bothers you, you're gonna want to figure out something about it, you know what I mean? But you know, for me, I think and Jock always said this, was like, I don't have the solutions. Like, someone might come up with a better solution tomorrow, you know, or a kid might come up with a better solution to me. And I think that's what's promising to me, is that the new generation of kids are just unbelievably smart, and they really are like kind of environmentally conscious of what's going on. As I'm sure, like I don't have kids yet, but you know, with your kids, I don't think you just let your kids just throw trash in the river. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So it's like with the new generation coming, it's totally different. In the 70s, parents had kids driving on their lap with cigarettes and, you know, throwing a beer out the window. And, you know, so things have definitely got better. I'm taking an environmental law course, and the other day we were talking about the EPA, and it's absolutely really shocking, something I didn't know. They don't pass a law.
Yeah.
They register it. They don't, and and you know, when you're talking about like, you know, how things go down, like that's crazy, that's out of this world, you know what I mean? But they determine a lot of stuff. And like, my teacher got a PhD and super smart and got practicing law and does all this stuff, and she has no explanation for it, truly, how these things are occurring, you know what I mean? And it's sad because somebody that knows so much should have an answer, but there is no answer, because she has the answer.
Yeah.
But her answer is just ignored. You know what I mean? And why is it ignored? Because she could be the best lawyer in the world. And when she goes up to a certain case, and they win cases, of course, you know what I mean? Like, there's substantial precedent set on environmental cases that people that really do help the environment. But at the end of the day, when someone's just making a law in the registry and can only be challenged if it's, you know, under certain circumstances, that's pretty scary, you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
And I think something you posted the other day that was real interesting to me was like, you're like, yeah, it's, you know, global warming is not, you know, or climate change is not something along the lines of global warming is not climate change, or, you know, because of the geoengineering that they're doing. And it's like, people tend to forget that there's nuclear testing every day. There's just every bullet that went off in the war, certain 50 cal bullets have you know, radiation on them, you know what I mean? So it's like, dude, the production of those bullets, the everything, the metals, oh my God, I just read a book where the dude was talking about how much garbage is in everything that you do, and that even when you recycle and you think you're recycling, it's really just you're re-polluting, essentially.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of those programs are just to get extra money.
Of course.
for
Of course. Just like
whatever place is putting it on, whether it be private, county, city.
charities.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh,
Because
charities.
they tell you,
F
oh, you buy the four trash can package where you put paper, plastic, aluminum, and then your household trash or compost is what they call it. We'll come pick it up individually. It's $75 a year. And you're helping your community.
Now you got 3 trucks coming by.
Yeah,
You
and
had one
they
truck
all
coming
they
by. You
all
got
dump it
3.
in the same fucking pile when they get to the dump, dude. And it's like, here's
It's
my $75.
it's so inefficient. The thing is though is things can change. You know what I mean? With the proper you'd have to come up with a better answer and actually go after it. But it's like that isn't easy. You know what I mean? It's not easy, and people do it. Man, God bless their hearts, man. People that made real changes in this world, it's very difficult because you will get shut down 100,000 times before that change happens, and that you really got to just keep going.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah, it really is, and you have to just keep going and going and going until that change actually occurs. And the beautiful part about that is if you go 50,000 times and you get up to 100,000 times, you start to question if the change is worth it.
Well, and that was another point that I was going to bring up, is that my wife is full-blooded Mexican. So they're down in Mexico, her extended family. And it's crazy to me because her mom's side lives on like a straight village. They call it the ranch, but it's like a straight village. So there's like no paved roads or anything like that. People from here would probably consider it dirty, but they burn their trash. So they don't have any trash cans. No, like in the cities, trash trucks come and pick the stuff up. But like in the villages and stuff, they burn it. Their cities are not littered. Their roads aren't littered. They don't have trash cans anywhere. So they're not using plastic for the trash bins, plastic for the trash bags, none of that. Now, obviously, I don't have the data to show what it does burning all that stuff, but at
which is
least,
super horrible. But
right, at least
when the stuff you just mentioned, you would minus from all that.
It's all horrible. So you pick the lesser of the
truck's
poison.
not coming by no more. The plastic,
no gas. You're not wasting gas. You're not.
There's so many there's things like that, especially in countries like Mexico, and I'm Iranian, so countries like Iran, they really they do things that are originally environmentally friendly, but then they also really can't mentally think about saving the environment. They can't afford that thought. You know what I mean? So the guy that throws a cigarette out the window, he's stressed out. He don't care.
Yeah.
He's doing so bad that he's just like, I don't care. And then you tell him, and he says, hey, my daughter's sick in the hospital and I don't have money to buy the medicine. I don't care what you're talking about. So how do you get past that?
Yeah.
That's something that as I went around the world, I've been to different countries, and I always look at that, and I kind of put examples of how Jock would have said things would have changed with people by changing their mind. It's very, that's an optimistic thought, because boy, when you talk to people, they're not going to change. They're not going to change anytime soon mentally. And so how do you deal with that? You know what I mean? How do you convince people that war isn't right? How do you convince, and everybody knows, you know what I mean? They know the wars are just, this and that and money grab and all this. So it's like, then what? So we have that information. So now what? How does that change? You know what I mean? And I don't even think I necessarily have the answer for war necessarily. You can't convince people of that, because there's going to be people that want to take advantage of resources no matter where you're at. No matter which country's what. One country wants to take resources from another one. It doesn't matter who's doing it. It's just like just endless.
I believe it's a symptom of being human.
Yep.
The greed, it's not spirituality. That's humanism.
Yes. And what's odd to me is, and I'm sure you could attest to this too, is people are all really the same around the world. So I always think, where are these evil people? Because I've met a lot of people, strangers, and just good people, and they all want the same thing. They want medical care for their kids and themselves. They want a job, and they want a roof over their head, and they want enough money from their job to be able to at least eat okay. Not great, not steaks every day, but just eat pretty good from working your butt off and having a house and all that. So it's like, at the end of the day, I don't know how it's,
Could you imagine if just all that stuff you mentioned, like at bare minimum, just wasn't a worry for people, period?
yes.
Just
Well,
wasn't
then
a
they'll call
worry.
you a socialist or a communist or
Right. Well,
this and
and
that.
I'm not even saying give it to them,
Yeah. No,
but
but
just
when you mention that, they just,
in any way, just not a worry, because like you said, like most people will be happy with just having like a decent meal, a roof
yeah.
over their head, clothes on their back, their family around.
It's really different, man. It's really different. And I did what I could while I was visiting. When I do visit countries like that, or any country, when I see someone that needs help, uh, it's disheartening. It's like, it's the result of all the stuff that we talk about. It's the result of everything that people call conspiracies and this and that. It's right in front of your face, and they call it a conspiracy. Like, oh yeah, why does that 5-year-old have no parents and no food?
Yeah.
And no one cares. How is that possible? Is that how far we've come, where people don't care? You know what I mean? And once again, like I try to do the charity stuff. Like I'm a big follower of Kiva.org. You know what I mean? Shout out to Kiva. They do micro lending. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
I'm not. Fill me in.
They basically, micro lending, I think, is a big solution. Now, since we are talking about solutions, micro lending, I think, is a huge solution in third world countries to get rid of poverty. And I'm not the first one to say it. I'm not claiming I'm the one that said it, but it's definitely something that's gaining more traction and wasn't very well known, 20 years ago. So basically, since we're in America and there's someone in a country that has the exchange rate is so much different than what it is over here for, to send $25. So what you do is you give basically an interest-free loan, and Kiva facilitates that. And then they give it back to you. So I put in about $1,200. Boy, that $1,200 has been turning for years.
Really?
And, yeah. And so what happens is they give it back to me, and I just give it to somebody else. They give it back to me, and I give it to somebody else.
So that 1,200 gets exchanged into whatever country's currency, and then it goes to a family that needs it. So you're kind of like a third party lender, and they're just facilitating.
Interest free.
Wow.
0% interest.
And you just get the 1,200 back straight up.
Yeah. And I actually, let me correct myself. I did 250, and I'm past 1,250 in returning. So they've returned the money almost 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe that? Sometimes I couldn't get $5 from someone that borrowed money from me out here. Now you got someone in Zimbabwe that has a small store that sells literally soda, and he pays you his $25 back.
So what was that movie? Was it with Jim Carrey? Was it Liar Liar or Yes Man, where he couldn't I can't remember what it was,
Liar.
Yeah, he was a banker.
Yep, he couldn't lie.
And he was given small loans to people that his bank would normally deny. And
he was a real doofus.
Yeah, but he had the most returns on those small loans because people were just so happy that, hey, I got $200, I got $1,200. They were happy to pay it back because the bank was just like, yeah, here you go.
Yep.
So there's something to that,
No, it's huge. It's because I'm sure you heard of like the world. I can't remember the name, man. They have basically a plan, you know what I mean, for the world to fix poverty, women education, drinking water, this, that, water quality, all this. So that's actually, I think, one of the answers to that is through micro lending for the poverty aspect, because why the stuff that we throw away should be kind of recycled back into someone that could really use it. And what I mean by throw away is $25 is nothing for Americans, you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, and it is for some Americans, which at that point, they have actually, I believe Kiva even has it for America too. I think,
Oh,
I'm not
cool.
sure. I'm not sure. But for America, you'd have to ask for like, and they have different amounts, you know what I mean? It's not just $25. They have one person's goal is like $300.
Okay.
Another person's goal is like 2,000. So they have to get like, so many $25 to get that, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
But I'm in the United States. So it's like, I could do what I do out here, how I help people out here, like how I already do. So that's my job out here not my job, but that's how I feel like is my job, to do what I can while I'm out here. And then with the other countries, obviously you got to go online with charities and stuff. In that same token, man, charities are a big, ripoff and big, big money grab for people that just really do whatever they want. You know what I mean? I had a boy one time go, "Hey man, you wanna start charity?" And I go, "Huh? For what?" He said, "Oh, my boy in San Diego, bro, he's got a lion. He's like, or he's got a tiger." And I'm like, "Yeah, so?" He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We go get a charity, we take pictures with the lion, with the tiger, and we start getting people to send us money." He's like, "And every time they send us money, we go out to see my boy and we show him the tiger." And I'm like, "Oh my God." I said, "You're out of your mind, man." I said, "Hell no, I'm not doing that." I go, You're crazy." And so imagine, that is actually occurring.
Oh,
And
people are doing it all over.
to give you a little insight on that, I call Heifer International a huge charity. I don't know if you've heard of them. Heifer International, they're been around for, oh my God, 70 years, something like that. Like all the famous, go to Heifer International. So my dumbass decides to do a charity work with Heifer International. $500. I buy a cow. They're supposed to send the cow to some country, and it says this cow is going to be used. They're going to get milk from it. They're going to get this, that, and you're going to save, a family. So I said, okay, cool. So I got the cow. They send the cow. I don't hear nothing. I paid the $500. I'm just like, man, they no response. Like, so I call them. I'm saying, "Hey, yeah, I gave $500 and you guys said you were shipping a cow. Where'd the cow go?" He said, "We can't tell you where the cow went." I said, "What do you mean? Did it go to, what country did it go to?" And he said, "I can't tell you." You know what I mean? I'm like, and so then I start researching it, and bro, in the small print it says we use whatever we feel necessary for our own procedures and costs. And then if it's feasible, then we would obviously. So if, like, I don't know, my 500 went into mortgage, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
So in layman terms, it said, "Thank you, but fuck off."
Yeah. And so I start going after it, calling them all the time. And finally, bro, I just gave up, bro. I called them so many times. And then I was talking to a dude in India. Then I talked to a lady in the Philippines. Then I talked to another dude in Vietnam. And I said, "Hey, do you guys work for Heifer International?" He said, "No, sir, we don't work for Heifer. We just get paid weekly to take their phone calls." I said, I'm just talking to midair right now. He said, "Yep." Wow. I said, "All right, I'm done." So then they finally send me another notice like, "Hey, there's a hurricane. Send a cow to Haiti." You know what I mean? And I called him. I said, "Hey, so where's my cow going?" And he said, "Oh, it's going to Haiti." I said, "Oh, so you motherfuckers can tell me about the cow now, but you can't tell me where the cow going last time because there was no cow." You know what I mean? They just stole my $500. So it's, man. So, then we can get on you want to talk about solution bases. Don't be blind in your solution. I was blind in that $500. I wanted to help so bad with something that I just wasted $500 to what? I don't know what, I don't even know where that money that just disappeared in thin air. You know what I'm saying? So definitely one thing about the solution-based, thinking is like, you gotta really understand what you're going after and if it's worth it, so to speak. Like, as far as okay, I'm just going to put $1,000 towards this and not do anything, or whether as you would have went on your own 2 feet with $1,000 in your backpack, you might have figured out something else rather than just
throwing it away to something that
whatever.
The sign says it's a good cause, but yeah,
$150 on the banner. You know what I'm saying? $75 on the tent, and
that's another important thing you bring up, because I mean, somebody's solution may be just to hold the door open for somebody else walking through. You don't know what that other person's going through. Could be down on their luck, having a bad day, it just whatever. And you holding that door open could just change that person's whole outlook on that day tenfold. That's, that's a
It
solution.
often does. Yeah, it
Starts with
often
the
does.
little things.
Yeah, and I think I always like to say, like, the most important thing is like to figure out what you really, really want. And once again, not that I know exactly what I really, really want, not that I have figured it out, but what I try to do is say, what is worth attacking as far as like trying to change something? Is it possible? And how much are you really going to change? You know what I mean? So I think starting off small, shows like yours where people, whether it be what they call conspiracy theory or not, opening a door into a world that is negative truly can end up positive, because what it does is give you the hope for change, because you say, I'm not like that. So I don't agree with what I just heard. You know what I mean? I don't agree with the dark web and this and that and what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, what do you do? You know what I mean? What if you're not a computer technician, what are you going to do? You're going to try to take on the dark web to get rid of it when you don't know nothing about computers?
Right. You're not going to win against Google. I promise.
No, or whatever. You know what I mean? No offense to the dark web. Sorry about that.
Right.
I don't mean anything, but
he didn't mean it.
But I love everybody, but yeah, it really is. I think it's almost like you gotta, when we're speaking about going down the rabbit hole, you really have to go into the negative before you get to the positive, and hopefully people get to the positive and don't think that running up into the pizza store with the AK and shooting 4 times into the roof was going to stop Pizzagate. You know what I mean, or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what that guy was thinking. You know what I mean? But
it's stupid, dude, and it's like,
yeah. If there was, that was it. You just ruined it for, if someone was close. If someone was close on an investigation, you just absolutely threw the years of work.
Stupid, bro. You made it the whole thing look like tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theories.
Oh my god, dude. And so it's like, at the end of the day, man, anything that, I think people have way more power than they really are aware of when they're dwelling on something or speaking to someone about something. Like, man, me and Rec been having these talks for years, and it's like, well, we agree sometimes, and sometimes we disagree. But one thing is that we both listen to what we are saying. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes he'll, oh yeah, you're right, and sometimes I'll say, oh yeah, you're right. So it's like, at the end of the day, when people are discussing these type of things, exactly what you mentioned earlier, I believe you're saying, like, it's kind of offensive or whatever. Like it shouldn't be. It's just, you're just talking about something that people want to talk to you about, a movie someone made that is not real at all in any shape, form, or fashion for 15-20 minutes, but we'll get upset if you say, hey, I wonder if the nuclear testing has anything to do with global warming. You know what I mean? Like, you idiot. And global warming, it really is, it's occurring, it's real. I seen data where people were trying to they call it the L-shaped graph was what they claimed about not being real. Like, they cut off the piece of graph in a certain date to make it look like temperature was actually rising when it actually wasn't, stuff like that. I've seen all that stuff, and the fact of the matter is like, once again, observation, you can go to the coral reef and see it bleaching. You know,
dude, you could tell when I was growing up, we had seasons. Like, you had legitimate seasons. It was winter, spring, summer, fall, and you had them for months. And now it's just like in California, prime example, and that's where I grew up. So that's the only thing I have to go off of. It's literally summer, almost 12 months out of the year.
Where?
In California.
Yeah, I mean,
it's always hot, even in Northern California. Like, it used to be like that all the time in LA, like whatever, that's normal.
It's changed dramatically.
Yes. Like, we used to have fall as a kid. I used to go outside and play in the flooded streets when it would flood every year and stuff like that, ride my bike through it. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. And it's, I think people just, like, yes, CO2 goes up. It causes these things. Yes, all this stuff is true. one thing that really bothers me about the global warming talk and everything is nobody ever talks about A, nuclear testing, B, companies releasing their liquid chemicals into rivers. And you know what I mean? They're always talking about, oh my God, this is happening, but fight against those companies. And they have, you know, there's some amazing documentaries out there where women in Mexico were fighting against the factories. It showed Samsung releasing their poison water into the village.
Yep.
Literally. Once again,
Nestle, when they drill for water, all the chemicals they used to drill for it.
God.
And they were coming into little towns, and like people were putting their lighters under their faucets and it was shooting flames out and shit from them drilling. Yeah, it was terrible. I think there was a movie on that called Dark Water.
Oh, Dark Water. I think I've heard of that. I didn't watch it.
Blackwater, and it was based on a real story.
Wow. That's, you know, it's, the thing is people want to, like, so how do we attack that? You know what I'm saying? So we know that's true. We've figured out that that's true.
Stop buying those brands.
That's one.
Yep.
2, devise something that you can use in your own house to not care what kind of water comes out. That it could be the worst water in the world and you'll catch the best water when it comes out. You know what I'm saying? Think of and you know, not everyone's an inventor, not people are a mechanical engineer. I understand that. You would be very surprised to what your brain is capable of as far as coming up with ideas and inventions. And people are very good at it. Kids are even more amazing at it.
Simple stuff like, I mean, not the dirtiest of water that has like bacteria and poisons that you can't drink, but like they have like solid copper cups that if you leave certain waters in there for a couple hours, the copper naturally, you know, and you can even speed it up by boiling it too.
Exactly.
And it purifies it, and the copper actually releases, I think they said like a small amount of like energy or something like that revitalizes your body when you drink it and stuff. So
wow.
There's little things you can do.
Yeah, there's little things you could do. And once again, it's like, how, that's not necessarily an answer where like, oh, what's the solution to that? And once again, that's why I said at the beginning is like, some stuff is not stuff where you're just going to be able to come up with a solution that you're kind of fighting against things that, and people that would rather not, it would be in their best interest for it to not be that way. And so obviously then I think that's what Jock was always saying, like that's where he went with the more social change rather than the physical inventions after a while, because you could say that I have the most energy efficient house and, you know, pressure that knocks out dust, and so I don't ever have dust in the house and all this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, if people don't believe in that, then they're never going to get to that point. So
they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think he came to an understanding of that, is that, you know what, I can have all these great things, but if people aren't ready for that type of world, they're pointless because they're not going to get pushed.
2006 or 2007, my friend came and gave me a watch phone. Shout out to my boy Ryan. He came and said, "Oh man, you'll never believe what I got." I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's a watch phone." So what are you talking about? He said, it's like a phone on your wrist, and it's like a watch, but it's a phone. I said, "Man, that's crazy." So I went and, you know, looked at it and all this stuff. One thing led to another. I started wearing it, and just that same one. And then he sold it to me, and then I started wearing it. I started selling them. And at that time, the iPhone just barely came out, you know, not 2007, but just a couple years earlier. And so for people being ready for something, I witnessed that right in front of my face. People would not call the phone in front of me.
They were embarrassed.
No, he'd say, "I don't believe you. Oh my God, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you." I say, "Hey, bro, type in the number into the phone and watch me answer it over there." No. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't, that's a watch phone, you know? And by the way, I absolutely shed a tear when I saw the commercial from Apple years later, because I was so ahead of that. And what happened, what what I learned is if you're too ahead of something, or you're saying something that people can't grasp, or you have a product or something that they're not ready for, it's not going to work. And so bringing it back to the environment, bringing it back to the conspiracy, if people aren't ready to hear that, they're definitely not going to be ready for a solution of it. They don't even want to hear it in the first place. And I, I really, bro, there's people that I really don't blame them. I really don't blame them if they don't care about things that are changing the world. Why? Because the world has done that to them, to where they do have to work 18 hours a day. And yes, when he comes home, like a normal human being, he wants to play with his children. He doesn't want to talk about, Chevron's oil spill in 1985. So it's like, what do you really, how do you change that person? How do you convince them that that's important?
That's how the program's designed.
Exactly.
To keep you from thinking about those things.
Exactly.
Or wanting to think about those things, because it's too mentally draining.
Yes. And so do you keep going? You know what I mean? Your boy, your boy or whatever works really hard labor job, and you're going to go to his house at 10 o'clock at night and just keep yapping in his ear about something. He's going to be like, dude, I got to be up at 5 a.m. You know what I mean? And we all been there, you know what I mean? Where you're so tired from work that you're not trying to hear nothing. And I think, like you said, that's kind of what the design is, kind of like, in Rome, when they couldn't, and I'm sure this is when they couldn't, they gave them the bread and circus, which was just essentially just, once they decided to see the downfall of society happening a little bit, they were like, oh, we got to just give them food and let them get drunk and go watch these gladiator games and just scream. You know what I mean? So at the same time, you really can't blame. What did you want them to do back then? We talk about the economy. That dude didn't care. He was like, man, give me a bottle of wine and some bread, and I'm gonna go have fun.
Some fucking ale, and I'm gonna watch this guy chop his head off. Yeah.
And so what's the solution to that? You know what I mean? And so I think me personally, the solutions to that is by not really the same way Trump supporters and other people, Biden supporters argue, or whoever, vaxxers and non-vaxxers or whatever they want to call them, how the same way they argue, there's got to be a better way to argue, man. They can't, this is like getting out of control. You know what I mean? The misinformation on both sides on everything. No way one side is correct and the other one's not.
That's why sides. It's funny because my wife used to be like so anti-Trump, like so anti. And I wasn't like, oh my God, Daddy Trump, I got a flag and a raised Trump with, but I was, you didn't mind him. No, I was like, stop, you got to stop feeding into that, and we would kind of get in little heated arguments and stuff. And I'm like, at some point I was just like, you know what? You're my wife. We're in this together. It's pointless. It's pointless to argue. Just do me a favor. When these stories come out bashing this man, go back and watch his full speech, just the speech, not from any news station or anything like that, from a private recording or whatever, or go look at what really took place. And then you'll see. And a prime example was when he was, I believe it was a 60-minute interview. He mentioned MS-13. And he said, these guys are the worst of the worst. They're not human. They're animals. And literally the next day, I think it was CNN said, Trump says Mexicans are not human. They're animals. God. And they just go to that clip of him saying, these guys are the worst of the worst. They're not human. They're animals. And it just spread like wildfire after that. Right. And so she started getting on it. She's like, oh my God. And her eyes are open and all this stuff. And I was like, no, that's great. I said, but don't get too carried away. I said, because it comes from both sides.
Exactly.
You can't believe, now that your eyes are open to the facade, you still can't believe everything that they push, because some of it is extreme. And you look at it and you're like, no, I agree with you being shunned by the other side, but that's a little radical. So
I saw him actually speak about that in a press conference. Like, it was just so random. It was like C-SPAN something. And I'm just going, and I'm like, oh, this is like live right now. And he's like, yeah. He's like, they the gangs, he goes, the Mexican gangs, he goes, they stab people. He goes with knives. He goes, big knives. Big knives. Because I was like, this
Stupid,
guy,
dude.
man. I just looked at it, so I can't believe this is crazy. I literally, man, not that any other not that any other politician is necessarily better than Trump, but it just is very eye-opening, man, what took place in the last 4 years from every angle. I want to say,
Absolutely.
not just one angle. And so when you talk, it's funny, like you'll have a Trump supporter, you'll be like, dude, did you know Trump, like, you know, freaking killed 80 people last night? And they'll be like, oh my God, I knew it. You know what I mean? And then you tell a Trump supporter, oh my God, you know, like Biden killed 80 people. Like, oh, I knew it. But yet they would never think that, what if they're saying that about the guy I'm supporting is, you know what I mean? Maybe it's vice versa. You know what I mean? They'll
Right.
never, ever listen.
No.
Like you said it best. You didn't get mad. You said, go watch the clips. You know what I mean? And anybody that doesn't know that they're editing clips at this point, you know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, you have to understand, and someone has to tell you that, because they do it well, and you wouldn't know if you were watching it that the clip is altered. You know what I mean? And then at the same time, you know, I was in Iran for about 10 months, and during COVID, and so there'd be people over there when Trump, and it was intense times out there, boy. It was,
I couldn't even imagine.
the whole time, every month, something crazy happened. You know what I mean? There was that airliner incident. Then there was the protest. And
they
then
shot down their own airline,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. And then they kill the United States killed their head general.
Yep.
And it's like, it was intense. But throughout that time, man, I heard it all out there. It was crazy. And people would try to get me to say something. I'm like, man, I don't get into politics. You know what I mean? Like, I'm into the environment, man. I'm not even, I don't care about politics, which is true to a sense, where I'm not going to argue with you, because you could be just, and who knows who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here arguing with you about something. You know how stupid that is? Because it could be dangerous for me. You know what I mean? To say the wrong thing.
Right.
And I started,
especially over in Iran.
Yeah, you know, you go there, and I want to continue to still go there,
right?
Because I love the country
safely,
safely, and not be under any watch. You know what I mean? Because I do love the country, and I love going there and visiting and stuff. But people from out here tend to, and there's people that I have friends that will be like, oh, I'll never step foot in there. And I'll be like, why? I'd be like, oh, they're the worst government. This, I say, oh man, you're crazy. You know what I mean? I'd be like, every government has issues. Okay, so
absolutely.
Going over there, I'm going to see my aunt I haven't seen in 25 years. I'm not going to do talk about politics, you know what I mean? Or go or be upset about the socioeconomic circumstances in the country, which you do think about and which you are saddened by. But you control yourself and try to come up with some sort of solution. The solution I had was just emptying my pockets and giving them whatever I had anytime I was there, which every single kid or anybody that needed help, or anybody that needed someone to talk to, or were excited about talking to an American and giving them a little bit of hope, and hope that things are going to get better. But the whole point I brought this whole topic up was that the people over there were like, man, I hope Trump bombs us over here.
What?
And I'd be like, what are you talking about, man? I'd be like, yeah, like, I hate it over here. And this is like that. And I'm like, wow. Imagine if their bombs would have gone off over there.
Yeah.
And we would have over here seen some footage and be like, oh my God, this is horrible. And that guy was begging for it. And he's just sitting
there, and you wouldn't even know.
I wish. And let me tell you something, a large majority were saying that. A large majority were saying it. Wasn't like this one guy said. That's
crazy.
Now, educated people, which they have many over there. Shout out to Iran, man. They got it's a double-edged sword, but you got Uber drivers that are no less than a master's degree in mechanical engineering.
Jeez, this is a whole other culture over there.
I'd get picked up and the guy'd be like, hey brother, I don't do this regular. I'd be like, what do you do? He's like, I got my PhD in civil engineering, bro. and he's like a genius, and he's forced to literally work 14 hours a day to make ends meet. You know what I mean?
Yo, Iranian parents are probably crazy, huh? Like hella strict and shit.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, fortunately I had, oh my God, man. Shout out to my parents, man. I have amazing parents that would really, boy, they dealt with everything. They dealt with everything of raising a new kid in a new country.
Mm-hmm.
So difficult to, I'd be like, I need to get a baseball glove, and my dad'd be like, a what glove? And I'd be like, baseball, and then we got to go. And I'd be in the there's a story where I was in the Big Five, and I'm like 10 years old, 9 years old. And thank God I had a lot of confidence when I was a kid, because it would have been real detrimental for, I would have just been quiet and been like, oh, I'm not going to play baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I got to go play baseball. I got to get a glove. I got to go get this. And so we're at Big Five, and I got everything. And I remember they kept saying something about a jock strap. I said jack strap. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, the heck is a jock strap? What are you talking about? And so finally I'm like, we got everything. And I yelled to my dad, and my dad's friend from work was in there. And I yelled, hey, we got everything but the jock strap. What size do I get? And my dad was like, man, you need to get an extra small. And so you know what I mean? There's definitely things that, you grow up with. And so over there, the same thing, parents are trying to like provide, and they don't know what's different about being a broke parent in Iran, or trying to raise your kid as an American / Iranian, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh man, I got stories for days, bro. There's just so many incidences like that, where just foods, you know what I mean? Just anything. Like, mom, can you get me handy snacks? You know what I mean? I'd end up getting nacho cheese with anchovy handy snacks that I never even knew invented before.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out all the parents who come from other countries and raise kids here in a new country,
for
or
real,
just
man.
anywhere. My father-in-law did that with his kids, and I have so much respect for that man. And he's a great dude. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying that because he's my father-in-law. Like, he's a genuinely like good guy, and he just wanted to come here and give his family a better life.
And went through mayhem to do it.
Oh yeah, learned English, did like the dirty work that the immigrants do, all that stuff. Like, yeah.
My dad worked, 19-hour shifts for years, and went to school. And yeah, he got his degree in civil engineering. And so,
wow.
Yeah, but the struggles, the not understanding, you know what I mean? My dad had to do a report on sharks, and the translation said sea devils, and he's
sea devils.
Yeah, and he's talking about sea devils for 10-15 minutes, and the teacher's like, what is, everyone's looking at him like, what is he talking about? He's like, they have teeth, and sea devils jump out, and they eat this type of fish. And it's just like embarrassing moments that really you kind of you take for granted, that you're like, wow, you had to do all that to survive, to get to the next stage, and took the shots and kept going. And thank God, man. Yeah, I love my parents, and they taught me definitely. Yeah, so much respect. And as far as like the conspiracy stuff goes, I mean, I was born in the middle of a war, so at the beginning, actually. And so the revolution in Iran happened, and then I was born a couple years later. And for me as a kid, I remember telling my friends that, like, yeah, the CIA sold crack in black neighborhoods, you know what I mean? Like, way long ago, you know what I mean? Like, no, there was no conspiracy, you know what I mean? People weren't talking about that. The reason why I knew that was because the Iran-Contra.
Wow, yeah.
So, and then the reason why I even
they funded that whole war with drug money.
Yeah, and so the Nicaraguans, so it's like, and I met Rick Ross one day, man. Shout out to Rick Ross. I was like, hey, I'm Iranian. He goes, you already know exactly what happened. Like, he was the one pushing their coke. You know what I'm saying? So from very early on, I was kind of like, I didn't think things were conspiracy. I just knew things were super shady. And of course, that's how it operated. And I think that's one big thing I also learned from Jock was, and, my dad was the first one to really put me up on game as far as like, oh yeah, what do you mean? The war was started by the United States. And it's not like he was like, the war was started by the United States. He's like, no, this is, go read it. Like, they'll tell you about it. You know what I mean? Like, a historian will tell you the exact thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, and so I'd be like, really? Because everyone thought it was just like this and that. So I learned like that. But as far as like learning, not getting mad about it was really when I first met Jock. Jock was like, how much money's in war? You're like, oh, 10 trillion. He'd be like, okay. You think they're not going to do it? Like, what are you upset about? Like, what are you like? And so you're
Big
like,
business.
big business. And I know that's kind of like it's not, I say that to say, it's not just put your hands up and say, oh my God, I can't do anything. This is all overwhelming. And why say anything about war? Because it's going to happen anyways, and they're going to make money anyways. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is get past the excitement or the rabbit hole, going down the rabbit hole of going, it's like this. Forget about that. Start to train your brain for the solution. And you may come up with it. It may be a random kid that comes up with a solution. It may be a kid that comes up with a weapon that will stop all wars. You never know. You don't know anything. We don't know.
Like, what about pen paling another person that's over in the country you're warring with and just saying, hey, I know my country's there. I didn't want you to have a bad impression. This is me. This is who I, you know what I mean? Something as simple as that.
Well, then you'll be in Guantanamo Bay for propaganda. No.
I mean, with Facebook now, it's possible, but they're gonna monitor that shit. So,
oh my God, they're like, dude, you a sympathizer? You're a freaking Taliban sympathizer? You're like, no,
right?
So, what's mind-boggling to me is, and I'm sure you can attest to this once again, is everybody knows a lot. People know a lot of what happened. They know Vietnam was this way and that way. They know we weren't supposed to be in Iraq. They know we weren't supposed to be in Afghanistan. And politicians voted against it.
Yeah.
A lot of politicians voted against it. Shout out to those politicians that voted against war and actually got just ridiculed by the big companies the next day. Dude, they're like, oh, you're done, bro. You're never going to be a politician in this state ever again. You know what I mean? But they're like, you know what? I'm still not going to vote for it. You know what I mean?
Those are real stand-up people.
They really are. They are, and they do exist in politics. I think that's one thing we don't give people credit to, is there is some good people in politics that really do fight the good fight.
Because they don't allow them to get light or credit.
Yeah. There's people, and they actually are responsible for a lot of stuff that people don't take advantage of. How many people that you talk to about this conspiracy stuff have written a letter to their local congressman?
Right. Or tried to go and talk to them face to face.
Or try to go, not saying
whatever.
It's gonna make a change or whatever, but a beginning is better than nothing. You know,
action. So,
yep. Action. Solution.
So I think that's another thing, is to get to the solution, like you mentioned, is the first step is admitting that there is a problem. Like you said, a lot of people can't even get to that point. You know what I mean? It just crushes their little bubble of comfort.
And once again, what about the people that can't? How do you reach that person that's busy?
I'm a firm believer in those are the type of people that once they see the numbers, if we can get the numbers behind us, they're the type that'll just join because there's numbers. They don't necessarily have to believe it right out the gate. They're just going to see it. Of
course, that's a big part of populations anyways.
Yep. A group of people, and they're going to be interested, like, hey, what are those people doing over there? Let me go see, and then the next thing you know, you got another soldier on your unit. There's a guy named Mick West. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's in Sacramento, and I'm going to put it in the universe, but he's a British American science writer. He actually has dedicated himself to debunking a lot of these conspiracy theories, these UFOs.
I'd love to talk to him.
So would I. That's why I want to get him on the show. Ironically enough, he has a website. I think it's called outoftherabbithole.org or comeoutoftherabbithole.org or something. But like, he's huge on like any conspiracy that's out there. And those UFOs that came out in the New York Post, those videos, he's already claimed to debunk those, saying that it's our technology. It's not UFOs or from other worlds. So,
which I believe, I to a sense believe that it's half and half. You know what I mean? I think it's certain examples of it. That dude is probably be an interesting dude to talk to. But I kind of figure I'd know where he's going with it, because people that go down the rabbit hole, they're very, very predictable.
Yeah.
as far as what they're going to tell you next, and you know what they may claim. But it's like at the end of the day, and I've done this where I've been in that state and talked to someone that knew what they're talking about, and they're like, just like you have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like it's kind of like when you look back on the back of you know, chemicals, and you're like, you know, benzene phosphate or whatever, which benzene is the worst, you know what I'm saying? But like some crazy thing, but you're like, if you were to go really study it, it could be derived from something dangerous, but what you're reading is not even what it is anymore. It's like you have to know chemistry. Not saying I do, which I
Right.
know a little bit of chemistry, but it's like it's very deep. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
just not like, oh, this is bad because it sounds bad. Like, bro, you got to go, you type it into a website and it shows you the
The
all the
formula, the breakdown.
effects, the
Yeah.
side effects, if you drink it, what it is, how dangerous, what level of danger, and what level of toxicity. So it's like, I would love for everybody, including myself, to go forward with debates, talks, things with more of a scientific method, you know what I mean, of coming across things. And that includes observation. So if you're only, it doesn't mean you have to do a hypothesis and this and that and then prove the experiment, which that would even be, that's even better if someone
If
could
it's
actually,
possible,
if
absolutely.
it's possible, or if you want to work on it, you really could, you know what I mean? You really, right, without having to go get air in the air with chemtrails, which people have done and have
Mhm.
tested the air and realized that the air had bad particulates in it.
Yeah.
You could do that without going and getting a sample of the air by simply researching geoengineering, for example, and
Yep.
then going in deeper into that and researching what's the name of the companies and what their objectives are and what they're spraying to block the sun, to you know, so that it doesn't heat up or whatever, you know. Then you could make an analysis of that. But I don't think people are doing anything. You know what I mean? They're
No.
reading something on the internet and it sounds good, man. I've seen some amazing stuff, bro. I've seen some stuff where I was like, whoa, this is going to happen tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it didn't. You know why it didn't happen tomorrow? Because none of the plans in any of these conspiracy theories are a 5-year plan. They're
Right.
like 40 to 50-year plans or 100-year plans. Some of them 200-year plans. Some of them 400-year plans. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, it's too deep. And I say that to say, no, nobody needs to dwell on that stuff, man. If
Mhm.
something is really bothering you, start to think about how you can make that change. I was walking on uh, junior college campus in San Diego, and I was, you know, I didn't have any money at the for whatever reason. I don't know if I didn't have my wallet or I was actually broke to where I didn't have even $1 to go get something to eat. So I said, why isn't there any fruit trees around here, man? Like, I want to eat an apple right now.
Mm.
And I was like, I go into the store and the apple's $1.15 or something, $1.29, and I didn't have any money. So I'm just like kind of upset. And I'm walking around. I'm like, man, I have a test. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's like, because I love fruit, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I would have for sure much rather had an apple off a tree because it tastes amazing, much more better, organic, a taste you've never had before in your life, unless you've had it off the
Free.
tree. Free, healthy. 25% of college students are eating enough of it.
Mm.
50% of college students don't have enough, you know, food to begin with, much less eating their daily recommended, you know,
Vitamins and nutrients.
vitamins. Yeah. And so it's like, I, it bothered me, you know what I mean? And it really bothered me so much that I said, why isn't there any fruit trees? So I walked up to someone. I walked up to the landscaper. I said, hey, why isn't there any fruit trees? He said, I don't know. I would like fruit trees. And I was like, why don't you guys plant fruit trees? He goes, it doesn't work like that, man. I was like, all right. Oh
He
man. I
gave you
said,
that
well,
look like you ain't from around here, are you?
he's like, you're an idiot. Like you, oh man, you're not even ready. You know what I mean? And so he actually became my friend and literally, I asked somebody else, and then I asked somebody else, and they all just kept saying, we don't know. And so I just said, all right, well, I'm gonna, go talk to somebody. So I said, you got to talk to the head of landscaping and maintenance. So I went and talked to that dean, and shout out to Dave, shout out to everybody in the maintenance department. They really made it happen. Such amazing workers, believed in the vision, even though it was going to be more work for them in the long run, and something that they had to take care of after I left, and they still did it. And man, I forever am so grateful to the whole staff, to the maintenance department and the landscaping department, and everybody that helped with that, and the vice president, and the Miss Agatha, and there's so many people, and my teacher, Professor Keller, with that helped me and believed in me with the idea, and so that's an amazing idea. Keep going forward with it. I'm like, no one's listening to me, and she's like, just keep going forward, and I'll help you. And she helped with the situation. My boy Nick, that believed in it and helped with the situation. And so then they said, you got to get the student government to agree to it. I go, okay. So I went to the student government, I pitched the idea, and they unanimously decided that they were agreed to it. So I was like, okay, cool. So when do I get the fruit trees? He's like, oh no, now you got to get the maintenance government, like the actual, the top
school district, the
architecture, top people. Yeah. And so I go, okay, well, how do I do that? They go, well, you have one chance to go talk to them. It's like they don't have another meeting for like 6 months. And so I went and did the speech, and I said, and people said everything. They said, why don't kids, what if kids throw the fruit at each other? Why would we plant fruit trees? We have a garden. The garden was away from the college, and nobody even benefits from the garden. You know what I mean? The garden doesn't even have vegetables planted in it half the time. It had fruit trees that fruit was dropping on the ground. You know what I mean?
It's going bad.
Yeah.
Weeds that are 4 feet tall because nobody's paying attention to it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so basically I just kept going. It took a couple years, and eventually we planted 17 fruit trees, all different types of oranges and apples and everything. And we planted it on campus. And I always like to call it the first actual edible campus in California, and actually much of the United States. There was someone that had it close in, I can't remember, I think it was Florida or something, but all of the programs that were close to because I'm definitely not the first person that tried to do something like that, but what's different about mine, and the reason why I always say it's the first edible campus, is because it's truly the trees were planted and it's done. That's for people to grab. There's no more rules. There's no more, this is going to a food bank. There's no more, don't eat it because there's always rules. In the
right.
You can't just
like a community garden type deal.
Yeah, the community garden, you can't just go pull a vegetable off the tree. They're gonna be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So the design of it was accessibility. I planted dwarf trees for those that are handicapped or
wow.
in wheelchairs, so they could reach and have the low hanging fruit and to grab that. So I thought of a lot of different stuff to try to make it accessible for people. And to me, when this, and it was difficult, man, it was, people didn't believe what you were, they didn't even know why. They thought you were, I think we were talking about this a lot of times when you try to do some charity and things like this, is people think you're trying to like show off, or you're trying to like outthink them, or you're smarter than them, or, oh,
I'm better than you.
I'm better than you. But it's like, that's very selfish to think, because if something is a good idea and the guy is a degenerate, a doofus, you know what I'm saying, or a dirtbag, then that should give you more reason to kind of agree with their project, knowing you don't like them, but right. That project will work.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone just might look at you and just might not like you, which, boy, a lot of people looked at me and didn't like me, and they were like, literally someone said, what do you care? You're not going to even eat the fruit. And I said, I said, what does that have to do with anything?
With anything.
Yeah, and at the same time, you have to be professional. So I can be like, oh, you idiot, oh, what are you talking about? So you have to be like, oh, well, I'd be like, oh, I'm doing it for future generations. And my real goal with the project hasn't even reached where it's been about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be producing the utmost in the next year or two. And once they produce the most, I'm going to go heavy on it again and start to continue to make all campuses like that, to where kids have access to it, where they're not watching someone pull an apple off the tree because you're worried about you're going to choke on the seed. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. The regulations, the things that you have to go through. I had to do so much. But one big advice I could give to everybody that I think a lot of people, when wanting to attack something or start a program or do something, is always go with money and safety. Safety first, though. Safety, then money. You have the money figured out and you have the safety aspect figured out, you can get a lot accomplished. A lot. Because
I have to say, that's fucking amazing, dude. And you want to talk about solutions, you know what I mean? There's a solution in action, full force.
Done.
By a guy that just said, hey, why don't we have this,
Yep.
Why don't we have this?
Thank you, brother.
You're already paying for the land. You're already paying for the water bill. Let's just get a couple helping hands together and make it happen.
It's, I think anybody's capable of that, capable of any program like that. And there's people that are doing it right now. Shout out to everybody that does the turkey drives. A shout out to Robbie Diesel for doing the turkey drives and doing, Rec doing his turkey drives every year. King Deezy doing his turkey drives every year, and clothes and backpack. Mr. Fab's backpack giveaways, and
Mr. Fab do that every year. Yeah, shout out to Mr. Fab. Yeah. And I'm like, why can't we do this in Sacramento, bro? Like, what the hell?
Man, and he risked a lot, dude. Look at what that event is like now. I remember the first year. They did it big the first year, but it's a lot bigger now, boy.
Dude, it's like thousands of people show up now. It's a big deal. They do like a whole 2 or 3 block party.
It's wow. It's amazing. And so I think people might look at Mr. Fab and be like, oh, well, he was a rapper, or he did this, or but his idea could have failed just like anybody else's, but he didn't give up on it, and he continued. Same with the stuff that you're doing. Like, bro, that ain't easy to do any sort of turkey drive. It's a lot of work. For Rec one year, I did the stuffing, and I think my wrist almost snapped off. You know what I mean? So it's like, so imagine, they were putting the whole plate together and they were driving around and dropping it off. I just did some stuffing, and it was difficult. So, man, shout out to everybody that will not take no for an answer, bro.
And who just does it just because they know it's like a good thing to do. You know what I mean?
You feel good after it.
Fuck the publicity. Fuck what people think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people out there struggling that appreciate it.
Yes. And bringing it back to a solution, like on the day that you're doing your turkey drive, on the day Mr. Fab does, on the day Rec does his events, would it be beneficial to talk about? Would it be beneficial on those days to talk about conspiracies and the problems of the world?
Nah, that's not important right now.
It's not important because it would actually hinder your day. You know what I mean? And it would make the day, possibly, if you were really, now it's just an example. I'm giving some sort of type of little idea of just to make a point. But the point is that when you're focused on certain things, you can't make a change. And if you are focused on something that is bothering you, then go to make that change, whatever it could be. And you're capable of anything. I think everybody's capable of anything, really. Like that Einstein quote's one of my favorite quotes, where you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. You would believe his whole life that he was dumb. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like everybody is capable of making that change. And I think I would encourage everybody, and myself included, once again, I'm no different than when I say you or us, or I'm talking about myself also, because everybody needs to be reminded constantly what changes can be made, you know what I mean? And how big it could get. Just those 17 trees are probably eventually at their peak going to produce almost 2,000 pounds of fruit a year.
Dude, that is so incredible, bro. Like
At their peak. So
people don't realize this, but we actually had uh an episode before the episode. I think we talked for like 2 hours, dude, for the pre-interview. And we went through that, dude. And you know what? I was just so amazed when you were telling me that. I was just like, that is an incredible idea, but yet it's so simple and so easily obtainable.
Yes.
That's probably why it wasn't being done more often, is because people were overlooking it. So the
Yes.
fact that you took the time to read in between the lines, dude, to me, it blows my mind. And like you said, not a lot of things blow my mind, but stuff like that where people are producing real change is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I thank you, man. And I totally appreciate the kind words. And honestly, it's going to get bigger, and I'm going to, that's just the beginning. That was the pilot program, you know? And so, once it's proven, which I've given it 5 years to prove itself, I didn't try to intervene. I didn't try to,
control it, manipulate it. Yeah.
It's a real experiment that I will really see soon how beneficial it is. And when the fruits really coming off of it is when I'm going to go and start my data of how many students ate off it, who likes the apple trees, who likes
That's fucking dope, dude.
what time do they eat it? When do they not? You know what I mean?
Wow.
I had a kid, there was one orange on a tree, and this kid was amazing student. Actually, it was spring break and was studying biology. I was like, "You're studying biology in a spring break?" He's like, "Yeah, I have to, man." I'm like, man, shout out, you know what I mean? Like, talk about someone that wants to just better themselves, you know what I mean? And so I was like, "Hey, you want an orange?" I was like, "I got one orange on one of these trees that I planted for students just like you." And he's like, "Really?" And he ate it, and he goes, "That was the best orange I ever had in my life." And I go, "There you go, bro."
Amazing.
You know what I mean?
That's
How
so
many oranges?
fucking badass.
Yeah. And he was just, I got a picture of it. Thank God. You know what I mean? But the thing is yeah, the idea was super simple. The process was super long, but you just have to figure out the process. And once someone figures out the process, they could just, you know, go along with whatever idea that they may have come up with. But you could.
Here's my thing is, if you can put the effort into sitting there and climbing down this rabbit hole day in and day out,
which is intense.
I know if you have at least opened that door, you've gone down that rabbit hole with a lot of fucking effort. You could take the effort to find something to bring a solution. Don't doubt yourself. You can do it.
For real. All them joules of energy that you're expending in your mind and your brain is working, you can make inventions. You can make real change. If you've never invented anything in your life, tomorrow you can be an inventor. It's by not just saying I am, but you'll naturally go, you'll do research, you'll figure out a little bit of mathematics, you'll see what can be done, what metals are bendable, what memory metals there are, what's this and that. And, you know,
even if you invent a weekly list to do kind things for people you run into, that's, you know what I mean? Like, just
thank
anything.
you so much. Thank you so much for saying that, because I think I definitely don't want to come off like there's a standard. You're absolutely right. And man, that's so amazing that you said that. Anything towards the betterment of, other than just going down the rabbit hole of telling somebody how evil the world is. The world is evil. There's absolutely horrible people out there doing horrible shit, and doesn't mean that you can't do great shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
have you ever ran into anybody in your life that you just knew was like straight pure evil, disgusting?
Oh my God.
Like, I need to get the fuck away from this person because it's radiating off of them and it's making me sick.
Yes, so many times I wouldn't like to say, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So many times of pure evil, you know what I mean? And so in that moment of pure evil, it was my pure, genuine, good heart that got me able to surpass that pure evil, because it was just, and this is now we're talking literally, and now we're talking metaphorically. So it's like, so that, you know, you really have to be like, I don't know, man. It's with the conspiracy stuff, with life in general, you really have to figure out who you really are, because when that day comes when you are able to make a change, or when you are face to face with the evil that is right in front of you, no more you saw it. You know what I mean? These women in Mexico that stopped the factories from leaving lead in their neighborhood, it was right in front of them. They were dying. Their skins were rashing. They were dying. They left like 28, I can't remember, 28,000 tons of lead in the open.
Oh my God.
And right in the middle of a village.
Oh my God.
The pure evil, the counter to that is you're going to see that pure evil in half these 90% of these conspiracies. So how do you counter that? You just literally just keep saying it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That we were talking about I think we brought up the machine gun preacher. That dude is a legend to me. Now, and I know out there they said, like the lady said, oh, like she said in the movie, oh, you think you're helping people, but you're out here killing people. You know what I mean? His eyes, he was helping. She thought he was out there killing people. In my eyes, I think he's out there helping. You know what I mean? And but people that really take something into their hands like that, without violence, it just so happened the machine gun preacher was
violent.
He was in a violent area, absolute, civil war and stuff like that out there. But in general, in a non-violent way, to be able to make change. You know what I'm saying? The reason why I use him as an example, because it was an extreme example, but do that without violence. You know what I'm saying? Is as much, and people can. I think people can. They just, I don't think people really want to. It's hard, man. It's hard. That simple task of those 17 fruit trees, I got ridiculed, man. I got made fun of. It was the worst. It wasn't a fun experience. I look back on it now proud, and it was fun.
As you should be.
As I, at the time, I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, why do you keep coming back and talking about these damn fruit trees to these people? They're not listening. You know what I mean? But I made them listen, you know what I mean? And I did it with all good intentions. Mm-hmm. It just made sense. And now to expand on that, why don't we have that in downtowns? Because they don't want homeless people to pick off those fruit trees. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you not want a homeless person to pick off the fruit tree? Why? I don't understand. Why don't you have that? Why isn't
cities like San Francisco will pay them a monthly fee to be homeless?
But they won't have they have a square cutout with a drip system, and they plant a freaking shade tree. We'll plant a fruit tree. You know what I mean? Oh, well, we already put I don't care. Like, design it for the future. You know what I'm saying? Design it for 20 years from now. Start the change now. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like the people who said, oh, well, we genocided the Native Americans, but we gave them casinos and hella federal grants and funding now. And it's like, yeah, but look what they did with that money. A lot of them like destroyed themselves with drugs and alcohol because they were just getting free money.
Yes. And
so they continued the genocide by making it, they painted shit gold and was like, here you go.
Yep. And allowed a lot. My God, that's historically, that's so disturbing, that whole thing. What's more disturbing than the financial loss and what they're claiming, what they're deserved now, is they completely dismantled a complete culture. The kids 100%. Would go to schools as they were mandated to get rid of their long hair. When they came back and their parents saw that long hair was cut, it was so disturbing to them. And you know what the kids would tell their parents? You guys are dirty savages. They cut our hair. Yeah, we're proud they cut our hair, but that hair was important culturally. It was a symbolization of many different things, including the culture in general, which was a 360-degree culture of everything is related to one another, and everything must be respected and prayed for, and
absolutely,
and all that. And they destroyed that. And so, yeah, man, there was physical aspects and mental aspects, and now you're talking about, well, we give them money and do that, and thank God they at least do that now. That's all I can say. It's not enough, but thank God they did that. And yes, they a lot of people would say they spend the money.
There's a difference in between giving people what they need and then wants. So I'm a
Yes.
firm believer in, if you stick to needs, you'll be good. But it's when you, and I'm not saying this for in an entrepreneur aspect, because if you're an entrepreneur, go for what you want. I'm all
Yes.
for it. But in the means of people who are in need, giving them what they want versus what they need, unfortunately, in certain situations, people are in of need because of personal choices. So,
Yes.
so when you give them what they want over what they need, and they're in that spot over personal choices, they're going to choose their self satisfaction over what they need every single time. You're taking it from a guy who was that, you know.
Yeah, I think we've
I would
all
go
had a
buy
period.
drugs over paying my rent because it's what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it
that's
wasn't, you
terrible.
knew, man. And shout out to Robbie Diesel, bro, being sober, bro. When you told me that,
Thank you.
9 years, bro. That's amazing, bro. Very, very difficult. And I, nobody gives, I think everybody blames people. That's what I've noticed with, because I've been bro. I've been friends with all kinds of different people. I've been friends with people that hate white people. I've been friends with white people that hate, black people. I've been friends with Chinese people that hate Mexican. I've been friends with Mexicans that hate Chinese. Anything, any combination, I've been friends with them because they looked at me as I wasn't the thing they hated. So they were like, well, you're cool. You know what I mean? You're not exactly my cup of tea of as far as like what I like to talk to and who I like to talk to as far as like politics. Like, I don't agree with one thing. I don't agree with your religion. I think you guys are all, this and that. But at the end of the day, I would just always ignore these things with these people. And at the end of it all, whether it was, a small friendship or a quick friendship, they said, hey man, like you really changed my perspective on the people that I hated before I talked to you and yourself. Cause I didn't like you. I was racist against Iranians, but I had to look at you or talk to you because we worked together or whatever. Point being is, man, if someone's the opposite of you, doesn't mean you can't change their frame of thought. It doesn't mean that you can't just be nice and change. Not saying if a person's an evil person or a bad person, you will go befriend that person.
Yeah.
But if it's appropriate and they're willing to be nice and you see some actions that they do that you're not, oh man, that was rude and types of, bro, you can put in good input on people. That's also a solution.
Absolutely.
Is a huge solution is when you talk to someone that disagrees with you, don't get mad or turn them away. Possibly see if you guys could keep contact.
I think that's so important. I think that's another thing worth mentioning is that me and you have been promoting debate, welcome discussion, welcome an opposing view compared to what you're seeing. But at the same time, listen to that opposing view. That's another big thing, because I think a lot of people don't listen to actually listen and understand where they're coming from, so you can maybe approach it differently or see it differently or understand it differently.
Yeah, I think people I think you're absolutely right, bro. And I love how you articulate some of the things I'm saying and the things that you're saying, because it's good for people to understand, because we could get lost in the conversation and just like, get off on tangents and stuff. But ultimately the solution based isn't just like the invention or the program or the idea. It's all of those things, and talking is one of those. You know what I mean? Like you just mentioned how it's like giving people a chance. I had a lady, I had a lady that just, oh my God, I found a piece of art at Denials in Sacramento.
Shout out Denials.
Shout out to Denials, man. Yeah, best corn dogs in the world.
Yeah.
And I went to go get it upraised, you know what I'm saying? And judging by the way I looked, the lady was, I called this lady and she said, hello, I appraise art and this and that. And I'm like, all right, well, I have a piece of art I bought. And she's like, where did you buy it? I said, oh, the flea market. She said, what's your name? And I said, oh, my name is this. And she said, what race are you? And I said, I'm Iranian. And she said,
fuck?
no, it gets better. She said, what race are you? So I said, I'm Iranian. And she said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I don't do business with Iranians. And I go,
Really?
yeah. And I said, I just laughed. And she's like, excuse me? And I'm like, just laughing. And I could have said, you dumb bitch. I just laughed. And she said, what are you laughing at? And I said, that's just funny. You know, I mean, I can't believe you just said that. You know, she's like, well, yeah, I don't like Iranians. You know what I mean? And I was like, I go, well, are you appraising art, or are you just like,
Appraising
what is that?
people.
Yeah, appraising people. She's like, well, what do you have? And I'm like, I have this. And she's like, okay, it could be of some value, but I cost $100 an hour. And I said, okay, cool. And she's like, well, I'm not even sure I want to meet up with you. and I said, listen, lady, do you want to do this or not? She said, I said, you probably have had a bad experience with an Iranian. I go, you probably were raised by someone that hated Iranians. I go, I don't care. I go, I just need to get this appraised. You know what I'm saying? So she goes, okay, come to my office. I go to the office. Long story short, we start talking. I tell her, she just thinks the way I used I hit her with the jock one. I really got this one from Jock Boy. I go, I ignored her negativity and just hit her with the straight, just, this is what it is. You know what I mean? She said, oh yeah. Now I'm face to face with her. I said, oh, it's no problem. She said, I'm sorry about the Iranian stuff. I still, don't like Iranians, but I figured I'd see this piece of art. And I said, it's okay. I said, I'm sure your dad just raised you to be like that. I go, it has nothing to do with you. You have no idea why you don't like Iranians. And she just looked at me and goes, my dad did hate Iranians. And I go, I know. I go, otherwise you wouldn't have hated Iranians. If your dad told you to hate Chinese, you would have hated Chinese. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she was just baffled by that, which isn't that hard to figure out, but she was baffled by it because probably everybody else like, oh, shut up, bitch. Don't ever talk to me again.
It's all about the approach.
It's all about the approach. And I started talking to her. I just got real lucky. And she's like, when was the last museum you went to? And I just got back from Amsterdam. I was like, oh, the Van Gogh Museum. And she's like, in Amsterdam? And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, that's crazy. She was totally like stereotypical, like, oh, that's odd. Yeah. When did you go to there? Like, she was totally just as racist as it gets. Finally, she talks for like 45 minutes, or she talks like 45 minutes past the hour. And she goes, you know what? I enjoyed talking to you so much. I'm not even going to charge you past the hour. And I go, wow. I go, you were talking the whole time, lady. And she just, anyway, she, once again, before she left, she just, described that my hatred towards Iranians is pretty much over. You know what I mean? Like, and people like Jock, I got a little bit of that game from Jock because he changed the KKK. He went to a KKK meeting. Who would go to a KKK meeting?
Right.
Who would attend a KKK meeting? I couldn't. A lot of people would say, you're out of your mind. He didn't care. He went there to change their mind ultimately forever. And he did. And did you see when he described that?
No, I didn't. I missed that part. Or I wasn't paying attention or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in that
I video. Was watching it at work, and I hope anybody from my job doesn't tune in, but
yeah,
I watched the whole 2 hours at my job. So,
but he basically described getting his foot in the door with the KKK and going to a meeting because he used to buy invention surplus at a military surplus. The leader was a grand wizard of the KKK. He ends up going to the KKK meetings, doing some sociological techniques to, going with the group, going with the leader, building the group up, building the group down, some social stuff he studied and wrote out of a book that is a way to shift the human mind that he remembered and kept to it and actually tried the experiment. Most people may read that book, but they're not going to walk into a lion's den trying to tame lions. And so he walked in and he got the attention of the crowd. He got the attention of the leader. He belittled the leader. He built up the leader. He belittled the crowd. He built up the crowd. Then ultimately showed him a video of a pig coming into his pig pen, cleaning up the pig pen, throwing garbage into a trash can, taking a shower, changing his bed sheets, and doing all this literally. Now he literally videotaped this. and
Mhm.
showed it to the Ku Klux Klan members. And he disbanded the Klan from that action. He said, "You guys are the pig. You guys have been trained to hate. You have no idea why you hate. You were just simply trained the same way that you think a pig is only supposed to be dirty and roll around in mud. I trained him to be clean
Mm.
because I trained him. I could have trained him to do whatever I wanted."
That's
He said, "Your
that
parents trained you to hate." And that
that's
was
that
it.
same thinking, that you applied to the fruit trees in the middle of the college campus. All it takes is a different approach or a different view or an idea on how to address something. Like you said,
Yes.
who the fuck in their right mind would go to a KKK meeting? Because I know I
Ooh,
wouldn't.
I
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I would, even before Jock, I did stupid stuff like that as an experiment, believe it or not. Now,
Right.
in my later years, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was at a concert one time. It was like a rock concert in Sacramento, and don't even go to rock concerts, but I just ended up at this rock concert in Sacramento, and there was about 15, 20. I don't want to shout out their gang on the thing, but there's about 15, 20 people with swastikas and stuff on, in a big circle in Sacramento. And I looked at my boy. I said, they don't hate Iranians. He said, they're going to kill you if you walk up to them. I said, they don't hate Iranians. I said, we're Aryan. We're the only Aryans. I go, if they read their stuff, they might not get mad at me if I walk up to them and talk to them. I walked up in the middle of the circle, bro, walked up to this maniac dude with swastika on his back. And I just tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "Hey, could you tell me the time?" And he said, 7:00, brother. And I came back and I went back and I told my boy, he said, "He called you brother." I said, "Yeah." I was like, bro, I just totally, not that he was a good person or he's like
Right.
actions
You didn't
good,
know him from
or
Adam.
I didn't know anything. He's probably wasn't a good person. But the point is that with a certain approach, you could possibly get into places and change people's minds. And not that was a thing to change his mind, but I said, from what I seen on movies at that time, I said, what I seen on movies and this and that, he's going to stab me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
But
that's crazy, and that's a great way to look at things from other angles, and that's why I said it's also important to listen, because some people might give you that perspective that you may have missed, like you did as far as the fruit trees with me. I was just like, wow, like it was in plain sight.
that's that, and there's everything. There's millions of things like that.
Millions.
I millions. I actually I met a lady that yelled at me during that time.
Mm-hmm.
An Asian lady came and started yelling at me, and she said, "Why did you guys cut down the peach tree?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You cut down the peach tree." And I was like, "I didn't cut down," because I was standing by the maintenance. And so she thought I was working with maintenance. And I said, "Ma'am," and she was like, she was furious. Boy, she didn't. She said, I said, "Can you walk over here with me?" I said, you see my hands are dirty?" I said, "I'm literally planting fruit trees, a peach tree for you right now." And she's like, "You are?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "This is your project?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Let me show you the peach tree they cut down." She took me around to the other part of campus. She's like, "They cut this big peach tree. It was so beautiful." And she said some beautiful things. Amongst it was really actually a odd, you want to talk about vibrations and frequency. Mm-hmm. She said, "I've been praying for 6 months to meet you."
The guy that was planting the fruit trees.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I saw they dig the holes, and I seen that you had the trees out there a long time ago in the pots," because I had them in pots for a long time. And she said, "I've been praying to Jesus. I'm Muslim. Muslims, not as good as a Muslim I should be, but as that's what I identify as. Mm-hmm. They believe in Jesus."
Yep.
Now, a closed-minded Muslim or somebody else might have said, "You talk to Jesus," or even a person that believes in Jesus that doesn't really believe in Jesus. But I believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. I believe in Muhammad. I believe in a lot of stuff. She said, "Yeah, I prayed to Jesus to meet you." And I said, "For what?" She said, "Because they cut down this peach tree, and then I saw all these new trees, and I was like, who is this person?" And she said, "Make sure that they keep these trees forever. And she said, you know why? She said, Peach, she said, trees don't take nothing from you, but only give you fruit and oxygen. She goes, how
Wow.
could you be mad at a fruit tree? And I was like, whoa. I was like, because I think like that, but I didn't know. Now, the amazing thing when people go forward with any sort of new ideas or a solution, you will get your praise. You will have those moments of clarity where you're like, it was all worth it, or happiness that you really did make someone happy. So all that time, I was getting ready to move to Humboldt at the time too. They said no, they pushed me back. They were trying to like lightweight, almost make me give up on it. You know what I mean? And I finished it. It was by my hands. You know what I mean? Like I literally got help from, thank God, from the.
Not only that, but how many people you think you inspired? You inspired me just telling me this story.
Thank God, man. You inspired me when you told me about the things that you do every year. You know what I mean? With the turkey drive and stuff. That stuff, it's a beautiful thing, man. Inspiration can
That's
come
just contagious.
It is. It really is. It really is. And once again, shout out to the maintenance department, and they're amazing. You know what I mean? Dave, everybody. You know, I just literally couldn't be more appreciative of them giving me that opportunity to try such a thing. And I just encourage people to really just, anything you think it is, don't let people look at you like you're trying to be a hero. Just continue with what you're doing. Don't stop. It sounds simple. It is simple, and anyone can do amazing things. And far from me saying that I did an amazing thing with the fruit trees, because that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it will just keep expanding. Hopefully one day, because in my eyes, it was a great thing, but it's not amazing yet. And so
You're
once
already
it
on
gets,
to your next project with it, though.
yeah. So you make moves, you know, you inspire to get better and even come up with another idea and more stuff. You know what I mean? So now I would like to get, you know, from the campuses to the cities and try to promote edible landscaping in the cities. Seattle is a big driver in that. And
They're doing that already.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Seattle actually, I think they're creating a bunch of edible parks with edible landscaping. But Seattle's always been kind of ahead on the curve on environment and trying to do better. This is the Open Mind Show. We talked about solutions, and we could get into some crazy crazy conspiracies that hopefully one day will come to light.
My wife was telling me the other day that she was listening to some lady. I can't remember if she said she was a doctor or she was just a lady, but it was about like the food we eat and stuff, and like the gluten and all that stuff. And she was looking at other countries, and she's like, I've gone to other countries and I eat the same foods and I don't get sick, but over here I get sick. Well, she found out that it was not from the foods in general, but it was the pesticides that they were
Oh my God.
that they're spraying on them. So like a lot of people, when they say they have gluten allergies and stuff like that over here, it's not from the food, it's from the chemicals that like companies like Bayer and Monsanto spray on huge crops because they sell fertilizer to farmers, industrial farmers as they call them.
So I've done a little bit of research on that, and Monsanto actually 2 years ago purchased their 2 billionth acre of farmland.
Jesus, dude, they shouldn't even be able to own that.
And so they of their crops, you know, and of access, which is all over the world, you know, and I mean they've literally, oh my God, that you want to talk about just it's basically the way it works is it's like if we do need pesticides, we do need certain stuff, but it's like they jump to it too fast without seeing the actual results over a long period of time. And if you're going to do something that serious, then yes, if you're the company, fund the research and development for 15 years, you know, I mean, 10 years before you see the results of these pesticides, and then determine. But what they're doing, they're, you know, speeding up the process, whatever they need to do. They say it's for the safety of the food, the food surplus will go down and everything will go down and we won't have food if we don't get this pesticide to the farms. And they convince them and they actually end up doing it. And it's like,
It's crazy.
it's crazy. And honestly, if you talk to people, they'll say, so what's your solution to that? And they have solutions to that, different types of agricultural, organic pesticides that you can use and things like that. But at the end of the day, my answer, nobody really talks about it, is we don't need that many farms. We don't need 47 million pounds of apples. You guys are selling 47 million pounds. And if the commodity price, actually, let's say walnuts, because that's more, or corn is what they actually do it with.
Yeah, corn.
Walnuts is too valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But with corn, they'll just burn the corn. You know what I mean? So it's
Unreal.
like, why do we do these things? It's like
And you could use that shit as fuel too.
You could, they could
They're
make
just
that
wasting it.
Yeah, the biofuel. And so why don't we don't need these farms.
Mm-hmm.
If we had community, or I saw a project in San Diego or in San Jose, and I was like, wow, that's amazing, because I thought of an idea like this, but they're implementing it and using GPS to use technologies. One is they're absolutely going to neighborhoods, seeing who has fruit trees, documenting the house, and whatever extra they have, they give to a food bank.
Oh, wow.
So now it's just like, boom, it's automatic. You know what I mean? Right when the apple season gets done, they're like, hey, everybody, boom, types it in the app. We have 400 apples, and they send it off to them, and they get the data, boom, boom, go pick up the houses. And it's like change is happening,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to take a long time. It's going to
Yeah.
take a long time. And I don't think that's anything, like, I'm not saying anything significant, but I think people want the change to happen next year and in the next 5 years, and it's not going to be like that. It's a whole cultural shift. It's, you know what I mean?
Like you said, for something like that to work, I feel like 2/3 of the population has to be on board, bare
Yes.
minimum,
Yes.
for it to take effect nationwide.
Yes. And at the end of the day, like, it's not a conspiracy. Yes, unhealthy people equals more money. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a fact. You know what I mean? You're going to the doctor more, you're purchasing diet pills, you're purchasing this and that, you're watching your it's just unhealthy people equals more money. So and basically more so in the insurance realm, you know what I mean, in the hospital and medical bills and stuff.
They're more
like that.
high
So,
maintenance.
yeah. So those type things aren't really that crazy, but it's like, man, if people had basically, you don't need much land to live off fruit trees and fruits and vegetables, and people don't even have that. You know what I mean? They have a yard and they won't even plant one zucchini. You know what I mean? So of course we need farms at that point, because now you need 75 million pounds of zucchinis. So it's like, why? And you need farms to a certain extent, obviously, to hit the market. But no, when you're burning whole crops, and
so that's kind of, again, that goes with the program that they have. We're over consumers.
Yes.
In the sense of what you just said, is that they create more than what we need.
Yes.
And
yes.
there really needs to be like a cap on certain things, so we don't do that. And it goes with everything. It's with clothes, designer brands, shoes, plastics, everything.
It really is. Oh my God, there's a book called Cradle to Cradle, and it's like, it's just so mind-boggling. Sulfuric, I don't want to quote the exact, but poisonous gas comes off your child's swing when it heats up.
What? Because of what it's made out of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is anybody can go read the book. It's not made by a guy that's sitting in his garage. He's an environmental, he's a chemist. So one's a chemist and one was an environmental scientist, and they go and change companies' idea of what environmentally friendly is. In the book, he said they took one ink out of they took one dye out of a chemical process and saved the company $50 million. And it reduced them from using 65 or I don't know, but just an unbelievable amount of other dyes. Bless you. And an unbelievable amount of other dyes just because they decrease one dye.
Amazing.
So these aren't conspiracies. These are people that were like, you know what? I'm a chemist, and they say that the swing doesn't emit gas, poisonous gas. Well, I'm gonna prove it does, and then I'm gonna go tell them it does. I'm gonna write a book about it. Does it change?
It was from the dyes that they were using on it.
Oh, a multitude.
Sitting in the sun.
Yeah, I mean no. The worse, far worse. The automatic baby swings.
Oh, sure.
The joints on those heat up and start emitting poisonous pollutants into the air. You know what I mean? And so they studied this, they researched this, so it's like, and the source, let me give you the source behind it so people can go look at it on their own. Yeah. So the book is Cradle to Cradle by William McDonough and Michael Brongard.
Effective design principles on human creativity and prospers for paper as we seek more effective solutions. It represents one model and metaphor for our thinking as you.
It is so deep and so eye-opening, and it goes back to the, you know, what the whole discussion tonight is this dude knows that a baby swing is emitting poisonous gas when it heats up. He knows it for a fact.
Yeah.
He's not dwelling on it. He decided to start a business where he goes to companies and says, hey, I can get rid of these pollutants for you. And solution. And is he, and like you've mentioned, I've mentioned, the solution goes from small to, it could be huge solution or small solution, but any type of solution will eventually push to a bigger solution. I'm sure at the beginning of his career, he didn't think he was going to be able to have this knowledge of the pollutants and prove it, and then all of a sudden go work for companies that are trying to get rid of these dyes, and people that are actually. One thing about the whole conspiracy thing is, man, is there is a lot of people putting in good work.
Yeah.
And those conspiracies never show that. There is people really fighting the good fight on all aspects. On all aspects. There's someone fighting everything we talked about tonight.
Yep.
And they're really doing it and sacrificing their well-being and their safety to do it. Shout out to them.
Yeah, for real. Round of applause. I follow this dude named Granderson on Instagram, and he I don't know him personally. I found him from a viral video of him, and he was actually a police officer, and he stood up to the mandates and shit and made a video that went viral, and his police department let him go because of it.
Of course.
But he provoked other police officers nationwide to do the same thing and make other videos that went viral. And these guys did it, and the same thing happened. And this dude's reaching out to him. He's reposting their videos, and he's like, I appreciate you using your voice and your platform to get this information out here, that we're not going to, fall for this tyranny and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hit me up in a week when you lose your job, because I know what's coming. And sure as shit, a week later, he'll post them, and they'll come on his podcast, and they're on administrative leave, or they're being investigated, or they're out,
Wow.
It's just shit like that in every aspect of life, whether it be, and in hindsight, dude, a guy going into a company and saying, you know what, if you just change this dye, you're saving dangerous gases from being emitted on babies, and you're actually cutting costs. That is
the dye one wasn't for the baby thing, but yeah, I see exactly.
Right, but that's just so small. Like, you're like, you know what? And you're making it beneficial to a company. So, I mean, you'd be dumb not to. At that point, if a company says, fuck you, get the fuck out of here, that's just pure evil. That's that shit we're talking about.
Well, they do that. And it's like, they kind of do that. And I guess, first and foremost, like with the mask mandates and all that, like I I agree with wearing masks and stuff like that, just because, once again, just the research I've done on the science behind it and stuff like that, as far as stopping the spread of something. And I know the bacteria and the microns and all that go through whatever, and the cloth and all this and all that. But the reality is 100 years ago or whatever it was, when people were dying of infections from surgery, it was a kid watching the surgery from up in the corner. One kid that was a medical student. They used to have like
without a mask.
Without a no, he was watching a surgery in medical school.
Yeah.
And they didn't perform with masks back then.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't have a mask on. Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He was just a student. They sit like in a circular, watching down.
It's an observatory deck.
Exactly. Yep. And so he just noticed that there was spit going into the cadaver, you know what I mean? And so it was a perfect angle for him. He was watching the sunlight, and they were just barely scalpel, and he'd see spit go into the thing. At the time, 85% or 80% of surgeries were infections.
Oh, I'm sure. Gangrene and all kinds of shit.
All kinds of stuff. And people died. A lot of people died of it. After this student told his medical teacher, which was the one I think performing the surgery without a mask, she researched it, studied it. It went from 80% to 20%. So if I suggest anyone that doesn't believe in masks, have your doctor perform a surgery on you, God forbid, one day without a mask, and see how far it gets.
Right. See if you're comfortable with that.
See if you're comfortable with him not having a mask on, and they have 2 masks on, which makes more sense than the stupid 1 mask. But at the end of the day, it's I don't wish it on anybody, but conspiracies and the way you think of the world will return to you one day. And when it returns to you, you're gonna say, oh my God, none of the shit I thought about matters.
Yeah.
If you had a solution, or if you just took it in and spoke about it, like we said, like with respect to somebody else, and see what you guys can get to and stuff like that, then you would look back on it and be happy. But if you don't believe in masks, and then you have to go get surgery and you die of an infection, it's like you go, oh my God. And now that's low now. That's just a metaphor for the story I said, that
right.
You know, people don't die from infections that much. But at the end of the day, 100% the masks work towards the spread of corona. But what I'm noticing now with the and I was waiting for this. I said, you know, this is all whatever. We don't know the story now. We're going to learn the story later. But as of right now, the truth isn't out there, what happened and what's occurring as we speak. But all these mandates and stuff, no, not one single person is going to stop them. Nobody's going to stop them. Society is going to continue the way it is going.
Right.
If you believe in conspiracies, and if you believe in extra knowledge and the information and all that, then you should know that there's nothing you're going to be able to do about the plans that are in order. Go
ahead.
You would think that if a mandate went out to collect all the guns door to door, like the NRA has been claiming for the last 50 years, which shout out to the NRA, man, they're an organization that needs to exist. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Because I see both sides of it, but I also see the bullshit that they do too. There's no one's going to take your guns, bro. They're not taking guns. I've seen the videos. I've seen where they claim they're taking guns, and that I see in LA they arrested a guy. He had 1,300 guns or some shit, and he said they were all under his name, and they arrested him and took him to jail. They, you know, and there's on so long.
That guy
short,
had a ridiculous amount of weapons too, by the way.
Yeah, and that's happened. And there's that's happened a few times. But my point being is, I agree there's something fishy going on, but this whole mandating thing and forcing people to get a vaccine is not helping the people that were on the borderline of getting the vaccine.
Right.
It is not helping the stop of coronavirus to have this type of information out there. It's not helping coronavirus when you guys go back and forth on fucking topics every fucking day. When first you say vaccines are super spreaders, and then now they're not sitting that. I've already made my decision. I got the vaccine. I got the second dose of vaccine.
Mhm.
And I told myself months ago, I said, if they force a mandatory vaccine, I'm never getting another vaccine after this vaccine.
Yeah.
Because no more boosters, no whatever. It's
Well,
done.
I
Because
read something too, and it's a good point. It's like, okay, a year down the road now, are we going to have people who got their fourth dose against people who only have 3 doses or
that,
2 doses?
and you got to prove that.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So it for me, it's not even the aspect of do the masks work or do they not work.
Yes,
For me, it's the way, and I think I don't want to speak for other people, but with the example I used with those police officers that spoke out against it and stuff, they did it. They were like, you know what, we wore your mask for 2 years. They wore this. It's when the mandates rolled out with the vaccines that they were like, that's where both of these guys that I'm talking about drew the line. And I feel like I see it from that perspective too, is where even what I call the God doctor that everybody refers to as the God doctor, Fauci, has emails that leak that say that he's quoting in his own words that, you know what, the masks aren't really that effective, but you should have people wear them anyways.
Yeah.
That's when I start
What's a
questioning
safety
things.
precaution? Yeah.
Right. And you know what?
Guaranteed.
In Asian culture, they've been wearing masks for decades and coronavirus still went crazy.
Dude,
so
and guess what? Before I went to Iran, I ordered masks, dude. And there was no corona. And when I went out there, all of a sudden corona came and I had these masks out there.
What'd you order them for?
For pollution.
Exactly my point. So this isn't new.
That pollution is going to kill you faster than corona probably will.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. And you know what?
Not really, but
I've never been right. I get where you're coming from. I've never been an anti-vaxxer.
Yes, of course.
But it's fucked up that you have to experiment with your kids, because I wanted to do the right thing with my first daughter. We had her vaccinated.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but so I'm gonna let you finish that. I just wanted to say, before you get into that, did you do all the other vaccines for your kids?
That's what I'm saying. I did. I'm not talking about the coronavirus when I say
okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
we got our daughter vaccinated with what they recommended.
Measles, mumps, rubella,
all that. Yep. And so my first daughter was sick, I want to say 4 or 5 times by the time she was 18 months old. Like sick, you know what I mean? My second daughter, I got, because I think they recommend three rounds of shots for your kids initially, right? And it's all for the same thing, but they give it to them in 3 rounds. So I let them give my daughter the first 2. After that, I was like, I'm done, because she was getting sick all the time. I was like, you're done. You gave her 2 rounds, you're done. And it's all that, the DTaP, the measles, mumps, rubella, all that stuff. My second daughter, we're like, we're not getting her vaccinated. Like the way our first daughter reacted, we're not getting her vaccinated. She hasn't been sick once. And she's over a year old. And it's fucked up that I have to say that, because whether I want to admit it or not, that was an experiment. Not at my will, because I made a choice to do what me and my wife made a choice to do what we felt was right with our first daughter. And when we saw what happened, we were like, well, if we ever have a kid, I'm not going to get her vaccinated. And we didn't. I didn't even allow them the vitamin K shot after she was born.
Wow.
And my daughter's she just turned 1 in July, my youngest, and she's only had like a little red runny nose for and it literally lasts like a half a day. And it goes away.
She didn't even get the measles, mumps, rubella one, your second daughter?
Nope. Not one of them.
Wow.
Not one of them.
Wow.
And I'm not opposed to her getting them later on.
That was your experience, was when you saw your first daughter, that shifted your thought on your second daughter.
Right. And I'm still not opposed to parents getting their kids vaccinated. What I think is that they need to naturally build an immune system. Obviously, you can't, like measles, mumps, and rubella. You're gonna get it if you come in contact with it, regardless of how strong your immune system is. But if you allow the body's natural immune system to build up, you're gonna have a better a stronger immune system. Then
Yes.
right out the gate, you're pumping them with shit. And now your body is like, okay, well, now I rely on that. Because people don't realize that it's so critical in children's development from the time that they're born all the way up until they're about 5 to 7 years old, with brain development, body
Of
growth.
course.
And body growth comes the immune system. So that's where we were at. Is like, you know what? Give your child's immune system a chance to build itself up, and then you can go to vaccination before school, which is going to be around 5 years old and stuff like that.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think with the coronavirus vaccine, for my personal choice, it hasn't been around long enough for me to do it. And I have done studies or research on mRNA, and the fact that we mentioned it in the DM earlier, is that they've been studying mRNA through animal testing for 30 years, since 1996, with unsuccessful results from 1996 all the way up till now.
Wow.
And then as soon as this pandemic came, they immediately jumped to they got approval to fast track to human testing before.
They usually always gave the actual virus in the shot. And
right. And a couple of doctors that I listened to said that you can never fully vaccinate against they called it a virus that has animal reservoirs, which means that it goes from animal to human, human to animal. You'll never be able to 100% vaccinate against it. And another thing that a lot of people get confused with vaccines is that when they say a 94% effective rate, they're saying a 94% effective rate of showing symptoms that you have something. They're not saying that it's a 94% effective rate of not transmitting it, not contracting it. So a lot of people get that confused with.
Yeah, and those are people that aren't doing their research. I mean, the lady that gave me my vaccine was very clear to me. She didn't trick me in any way. She was like, I hope you know that getting this vaccine doesn't mean you're not going to get corona.
Yeah, it's just not a safe pill.
Yeah, she's like, the only thing it's not going to do is you're going to live if you go to the hospital. If you go to the hospital, you'll just live. And you're most likely, she said, won't have permanent lasting effects. Mm-hmm. Which, once again, a couple of my friends got corona. They had fucked up lungs, dude. Mm-hmm. And they didn't heal. You know what I'm saying? And
did they have pre-existing conditions?
No, none.
They didn't have like child-induced asthma. They didn't
nothing, no asthma, no nothing. And as soon as my boy that had the lung issues took the vaccine, the lung issues went away. Mm. So, and that's how the mRNA is designed. But a lot of people think that mRNA actually messes with your DNA, and it doesn't do that. Mm. And you could look it up, and not you personally, but anybody could look it up and see how it actually does, affect the DNA, so to speak. But my wife is pregnant, and I asked the lady, the doctor, what do you guys suggest? She said, we are suggesting vaccinating for pregnant women. Mm-hmm. And I said, do you have any research on that? And she says, no. I said, do you have any data? She said, no. I said, okay, then I'm not vaccinating my wife while she's pregnant. Yeah. I go, the baby's brain isn't even fully developed, and you guys want to throw something in there that's already hard in its natural state to just do what it needs to do. You know what I mean? Now you guys want to add stuff. And she said, well, I have to tell you this. You're right. And she said, you're an environmental scientist, so you know about like research and data and stuff. She's like, so I would just tell you this. I've seen pregnant women come into the hospital that are devastatingly near death and losing their baby, and they have corona. She's like, that is my experience. You judge it how you want to judge it. She goes, and I don't blame you either way. You know what I mean? And I said, what about the cognitive effects of the vaccine? She says, we won't know those till your child is 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm good then.
Too much of a risk.
Yeah, too much. And really, honestly, I've never taken any vaccine in my life other than, Tdap. I haven't seen no effects, man. The vaccine doesn't. Something that we could prove right now right now we can prove is there was a good majority of time of people saying that this vaccine was going to make you sterile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 160 million people have taken it.
Right.
So we should have a half cut in population by the next 4 years if this remains true.
Yeah.
At least. It's not going to be like that. You know that, and I know that. Half the population is going to cease to reproduce. You know what I'm saying? So, or whatever, minus the people that are eligible and all that. My point is a lot of stuff, you got to really do the research. When it comes to vaccines and your children, I believe people should have a choice.
That's all it is. And that's what I was getting at with the mask thing too.
Of course. And if you stand behind the masks and you stand behind the vaccines, I don't stand behind those, but I use the mask and I got the vaccine. I don't stand behind them, go to war for them type shit.
Right.
But since I decided to do that, when I see a gentleman not wearing a mask, standing right next to me, less than 6 feet, I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. That's his choice. But he is bothered that I'm wearing a mask.
Oh, I'm sure.
He thinks I'm a Biden supporter. He thinks I'm a Democrat. He thinks I'm an anti-Trump supporter. He thinks I think that he is a Trump supporter.
Could you imagine what it was like at the beginning of the pandemic? It was the same way with people who did wear masks?
Yes, it's so bad. It's right now. It's like a showdown. People walk by and they don't have a mask. And they look at you with the mask and they're like, fucking Democrat liberal.
Right.
And my boy,
you're fucking stupid.
My boy that got corona, he's over all that shit. You know what I mean? He's like, bro, I don't give a fuck about the conspiracy. I got that shit. I was fucked off. Never felt like that before in my life. Never had a sickness like that before. Contemplating death. Worst sickness I ever had. My boy Aaron, he said, yeah, something happened. The lady goes, oh yeah, your guys' table going to be ready in 30 minutes. He goes, goddamn little Dems. And I go, bro, what did you just say? He says the fucking Dems, dude. I go, what? He goes, she's telling us that we got to wait 30 minutes. and he goes, and then I just realized what he was talking about. And I go, holy shit, bro. That's all I hear now, bro. That's all I hear. And what about people that are probably, I would say it's safe to say, like both of us probably believe in gun rights and believe in gun safety. I believe
choice.
I believe in rights. I believe in, and so, but I'm not a Republican. I'm the furthest thing from a Republican. But if I tell someone I believe in guns, they think I'm a Republican, Trump support. It's like people are really ignorant, bro. I really hate to be pessimistic, but people are really dumb, including myself at times, including other people at times. I'm not excluding myself, but in general, I try to catch myself. A smart person might try to catch themselves, or someone that did research might try to catch themselves, but if you just don't ever catch yourself, bro, it's over, man. It's over, bro. You look at people like that. I'm not a Republican and I believe in gun rights. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't matter how much you know. If you can't, find your own faults, then you're just as ignorant as the guy that doesn't know anything. That's
it. That's beautiful. Yeah. And the NRA will be like, Texas does this, and I'll be like, dude, and I'll erase it because I don't like commenting on that, because for the next 2 days you got like weirdos from Mississippi hitting you up like, I could tell by your picture I'll kill you if this and that and that. You start dealing with all kinds of shit.
The internet's wild, ain't it?
Yeah. Did you know that our Constitution was made for that? Yeah, I know, dude. And then I say things that are misleading, so they think I don't believe in gun support, but I totally do. So that I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. I totally believe people should have the right to carry a gun. And so, point is like you can't just make up you can't just say because of one person they do something or they believe in something that's it. That's all they are. It doesn't matter, dude. Like you could believe in guns and you could be a freaking hippie. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it doesn't make sense. And what people end up doing is using that as the support in the group, mob mentality, attack the enemy, and then all of a sudden,
all what they're programmed to do, dude.
Yeah, and it's designed like that. It's divide and conquer. You know what I mean? And I don't think we talked about a lot of stuff tonight, but like one of the biggest things I think towards the end here, since I'm sure you're tired.
Well, I just realized it's 1:20.
I know, that's why I just looked at it too. But to really summarize, I think is the reason why we didn't go deep into like ideas of conspiracies is because I think we're all on the same kind of field as far as me and you acknowledging they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And this show, I think, was more about getting past that. And for people that are possibly at a rough point in their life when they're first understanding about this type of stuff, that we acknowledge all this crazy stuff is going on.
Absolutely.
I get it. And when I say all this crazy stuff, horrendous army putting syphilis in kids' eyes. Yes, everything.
Yeah.
Like with needles. Like I get it. I know it's
even to the craziest, most outrageous stuff, like a reptilian race is running the planet right now. Like we're there.
We're there. I understand it. I agree. I've seen observations from people that have claimed they've seen those things that are normal human beings that aren't bad people. Mm-hmm. So I get it all. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think whenever we discuss that, we should have a period where we discuss the solution. It's fun. I love talking about that stuff. I would love to talk about the center of the earth, whether it exists or not. Mm-hmm. Whether it exists or not. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then when you go research it and you see, oh, wow, this was done and that was done. Well, then it makes it more interesting. But let's also say, let's come up with a solution. You know what I'm saying?
It's like
unfortunately, the man that did come up with the solution got killed. But besides that,
that's besides the point.
That's besides the absolute point. But I think
I think this episode was beautiful and it was different than all my other episodes.
Thank you, man.
Just because of that aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that I kind of wanted to bring that aspect to the table because there's no point in me sitting here saying I knew about this stuff this many years ago, and I'm sitting here regurgitating everything that everybody already knows, man. I could tell you about everything that you've heard, read. I could tell you who's what, and who's shape shifting and whatever you want to know. But at the end of the day, how can we relax our minds? Life is stressful as it is enough, man. It's so difficult with no mental disorders and no mental issues and no financial problems and no relationship problems and all to live in a world like, dude, there's so many issues with everything. People have so many things going on. Let's knock one thing down that's something that's really disturbing by slowly, and even by yourself. You don't have to proclaim it. If you have a plan or an idea to fix something, keep it to yourself. If you think it's something that's
talk about that real quick before we close too. That was something that you said the other night when we talked. That was profound about when you're putting these plays together that are big to change things. What did you say?
Well, without putting it too much into, I think people will know what to go with it. But literally, I don't want to give any exact examples, but it's like when you're putting something that's drastic, and just to say the Fruit for Students was the program I did with the trees. That's not what I'm talking about here.
Right.
I'm talking about something gigantic, big, creating a hospital in a country where they don't allow a stranger to build a hospital. Mm-hmm. Fixing, going to a country like, if you were to go to Afghanistan right now and you were to start a soup kitchen, the Taliban would come smoke you.
100%.
That day. He's saying, you think we're not doing our job right? You think people are poor because of this? We're not poor. We don't need your soup. Mm-hmm. They do that. Africa, it had a huge issue with that. Yeah. Huge issue. Any charities that went there, and some, as expected, of course, some people would, have a bad idea because some charities, like we talked about, are dirt bags and probably went there and,
paid a bunch of people off and pillaged
and left and didn't do shit. So of course the culture's mad at them, or not the culture, the community is mad at them. But in reality, like if you want to do a big play like that, keep it to yourself and do it in an old school fashioned way, man. Like, you know what I mean? Don't tell anybody, and don't, and with nonviolence. I'm not telling someone to plan some sort of attack or something like that. I'm saying with a positive notion, don't listen to someone. An example I want to give for that, and this could be taken across the board, is if I made the decision already. I said, if they don't let me plant these fruit trees here, I'm going to come in here in the middle of the night and I'm going to plant them all over campus.
You were already Operation
I already made the decision. I said, I'm going to come here in the middle of the night and I'm not going to do 17 and 20.
Yeah.
I'm going to do 100. And it's going to take them so long to figure it out that they're fruit trees and that they were even planted. And I'm going to disperse them so perfectly that they'll never know. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
And so that was my second idea. Thank God it worked. And by the way, with the fruit tree thing, I wrote down, and this goes for anyone, whenever you want to start a program or do anything, just get it started. It's going to end up greater than you thought it was than you ever imagined. I only put 10 and I planted 20. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So it's like, and 3, obviously the reason why I brought down to 17, because 3 were stolen. But
really?
Yeah, someone came and dug them out the ground and took them.
Okay.
And here's the beautiful thing.
That damn landscaper.
Yeah. Here's the beautiful thing. You know what's funny? My friend, the original landscaper I talked to, ended up being a close friend of mine, and I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years. And hopefully I can get his name before you put this episode so I can give a shout out to him. But he really motivated me a lot with the Fruit for Students thing. He was one of my first motivations. And his name's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember because I met so many people during that period. But this experience was one day I laughed. I came to the fruit trees and someone said, "Hey, they stole your fruit tree." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, the joke's on them because they're about to plant that." So when you do something positive and a negative action comes in, someone thought they were being whatever. They're going to feed themselves or a group of people for the next 40 years from that stolen item.
Yep.
And it was stolen and it was sinister at the beginning and it was evil intentions. But the joke was on them because they're going to be feeding themselves and 50 other people for the rest of the world, 40 years.
Right.
So I encourage everybody just to do anything in a positive direction and soak in the knowledge of the conspiracies. If you don't like to take vaccines and you don't believe in, do the research, do your research so that you are comfortable with yourself and you're comfortable with the
always
idea
make informed decisions. Don't go into shit blind. Yes,
because once again, guilty of it. You go on Instagram, bro. You can go on a tangent and be like, "Dude, this dude sounds convincing." You know what I mean? Like, or this lady is a real doctor. You know what I mean? Or it's a lot of stuff. So, and I've been guilty of it. The longer I've known about it, you know what I mean? The longer I've known about it, we've all been guilty of it. So it's like you lose sight of it.
If you got some money, you could put together some pretty convincing documentaries.
Whoa. You know what I mean? So just to sum it up then, you know what I mean? I would just like to say, thank you so much, bro, for, having me. I think hopefully we brought a little bit of ease to somebody that just fell into that rabbit hole, to the point of not to continue questioning. You never stop questioning. Never, ever. You know what I mean? Like, so in no way, shape, or form is this episode about just move on in life. And yes, I know they're, stabbing kids in the eyes with gonorrhea, but just forget about it. No, you should never forget about that. You actually should never forget about the things that you learn that are evil that are going on. But you should also, at the same time, the equal amount of energy you spend on thinking about the negative part, try to figure out how you can attack the positive part. Because it's possible. Amen. Yeah, it's possible, man. Those documentaries, those women in Mexico, I couldn't believe what they got done. The farm workers in Florida, I couldn't believe what they got done. Everybody, the farm workers movement out here, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Julio Cesar Chavez, like these people really, they took a huge conspiracy and ended it.
And we gotta get up. Yeah, they did. Was it a conspiracy though? Because it was going on.
Or was it like what Jock said? You don't think that dude wants $5 billion? What are you mad at him for? You don't think, you know what I told my boy sent me the Rumsfeld thing. And you know what I said? I said, that's a LIQ. And my boy said, a gangster LIQ. I go, what are you mad? You're mobbed out. Like hey, we used to hit licks for five.
Are you going to get mad are you going to get mad at mobsters for doing mob shit?
No, then don't get mad at politicians for doing politics stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show. Huge respect to you. I love the like-mindedness, dude. Like I told Rick, I'll tell you, it's so refreshing to have like-minded people to talk to.
Shout out to Rick again, man.
Shout out to Rick
for setting this up, man.
It really does ease the minds and to anybody listening, even if you're only one aspect of this or you're all around like us, you're not alone. You know what I mean? And there is a way to go about your life without letting it consume you.
Yes.
We got to get up.
Well put.
We got to get up on doing some of those projects at other schools, dude. I'm so serious. I have resources and networks to at least get the ball rolling. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Dude, no. And you know what? I've done the numbers for a lot of these schools. We'll be able to, we can come in and do the work and they're not going to need nothing. Yeah. They just literally say, you guys can put them there and we'll have it all done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but I appreciate you, man. And thank you for, honestly, bro, taking your time out of your day and your family time and your energy to really spread knowledge. And in an episode like this, where we try to bring a little bit of calm and collectiveness to people that are really, when you figure out this stuff, it's intense and it's not pleasant, bro. It's not fun seeing, sexual characters in Disney cartoons. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not cool to figure out that it's not a conspiracy and you see it in front of your face. So they do occur. They now, the mermaid with the Little Mermaid, the cover of that, now they're actually promoting that.
Oh, I'm sure.
The mermaid cover with the penis picture or whatever on it, so it's like, bro, I get it. Things are happening. It's disgusting. It's horrible. There's sinister stuff going on. But the only way if you want to go after this, then you can go after these type of people and make it your lifelong journey to stop disgusting things from happening or bad people or whatever it may be. And it's like, you don't like reptilians? Go hunt reptilians. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, seriously, but it's like now you say that to somebody and now you're getting into a weird thing because now you're like the Roddy Piper movie where he puts on the glasses. You seen that?
Oh yeah, They Live.
Yeah, They Live, and and so
they're all talking to their watches.
Yeah. So it's dangerous. So you know what I say? I say, okay, well then if reptilians are attacking people, then how could you make people not taste good for reptilians? You know what I'm saying? Like come up with something like if you're on a boat of something like where you're coming up with that, that's it's like, bro, come up with a solution. And as I said before, and you mentioned, the solution isn't the solution for all, and it isn't solution for every topic. It is just you coming up with a program in your head and moving forward to give your brain relaxation and still fighting the good fight and come up with a plan in a nonviolent way.
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. Well, thank you again, man.
Thank you, brother.
I'm going to check back in with you too one of these times on the show.
Yes,
we'll be
please. I would love to come back on, man. I'd love to come back on later, bro. Thank you, bro.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in, man. That's the Open Minds. You guys have a good night.